What happens when a single act of kindness costs you everything? One broken down Marine, one powerful man who thinks money makes him untouchable, one moment that changes everything. When Ethan Cole stepped between a billionaire and a frightened waitress on a rainy midnight, he had no idea he'd just signed away his future. No good deed goes unpunished, especially when you stand up to the wrong person. This is the story of how doing the right thing can destroy your life, and how sometimes the truth fights back harder than the lies. Stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain hit Route 9 like bullets that night. Ethan Cole's pickup rattled through the downpour, wipers slapping uselessly at the windshield while thunder rolled across the empty Virginia hills. His hands ached on the steering wheel, 12 hours hauling furniture from Norfolk to Richmond, and his lower back felt like someone had taken a crowbar to his spine. The dashboard clock blinked 11:47 p.m. in angry red numbers. He should have been home 2 hours ago. Should have been a lot of things. The diner appeared out of the darkness like something from another era, chrome siding catching his headlights, neon sign buzzing Mel's in pink and blue. Half the letters were dead. The parking lot held 4 vehicles, a rusted sedan, a black Mercedes that looked obscenely out of place, a catering van, and a Harley chained near the entrance. Ethan pulled in next to the bike and killed the engine. The sudden silence pressed against his ears. Just coffee. 20 minutes, tops. Then another hour home to that empty apartment where his daughter's room sat untouched, her stuffed animals still arranged on the bed, exactly how she'd left them 3 weeks ago when Sarah took her to give him space to figure things out. He hadn't figured out anything except that silence was worse than arguments. The diner's door stuck halfway, warped from humidity. Ethan shouldered it open and stepped into air thick with grease and burnt coffee. A country song played low from speakers held together with duct tape. The place was nearly dead. A trucker hunched over pie at the far end of the counter, a young couple in a corner booth staring at their phones instead of each other, and near the kitchen, a man in an expensive suit arguing with someone Ethan couldn't see. Coffee. Black? Ethan dropped onto a stool near the register. The waitress appeared from the back. Mid-20s, dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail, the kind of tired eyes that came from double shifts and rent that never got easier. Her name tag said Maya. She poured without asking if he wanted a refill later, just set the pot down within reach. Rough night? She had a small voice. Careful. Long one. She nodded like she understood the difference and moved away. Ethan wrapped both hands around the mug, letting the heat work into his joints. The couple in the booth laughed at something on a screen. The trucker scraped his fork across an empty plate. Normal. Forgettable. Then the man in the suit raised his voice. I don't care what your policy is. I'm telling you what I want. Ethan glanced over. The suit was maybe 50, silver at the temples, the kind of tan that came from resorts, not construction sites. He stood too close to Maya, who'd reappeared with a coffee pot, her body language screaming discomfort, shoulders up, weight on her back foot. Sir, I can get you decaf or regular. Those are the options. Her voice stayed level, professional, but Ethan heard the tremor underneath. I want espresso. You're telling me this pathetic establishment doesn't have an espresso machine? We don't, I'm sorry. There's a Starbucks about 15 miles. Do I look like I want to drive 15 miles? The man moved closer. Maya took a step back and hit the counter. What I want is for you to do your job and figure it out. The trucker didn't look up. The couple kept scrolling. Ethan felt that familiar tightness in his chest, the one that used to come before patrols went sideways, before doors got kicked in, before everything went loud. Not your problem. Drink your coffee. Leave. I'll ask the cook if there's anything we can do. Maya's knuckles were white on the coffee pot. The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. That's better. See how easy things are when you're cooperative? He reached out and put his hand on her arm. Maya went rigid. Sir, please don't. I'm just saying thank you. His fingers tightened. You're very pretty when you're not being difficult. Ethan was moving before he'd decided to move. 3 stools? Maybe 10 feet. The trucker finally looked up. The couple's screens went dark. Ethan's coffee sat steaming, abandoned. Take your hand off her. The man turned slowly, still gripping Maya's arm. Up close, Ethan could smell his cologne, something that probably cost more than Ethan made in a week. The guy had manicured nails, cufflinks, shoes so polished they reflected the fluorescent lights. "Excuse me? You heard me." Ethan kept his voice flat. "Let go of her arm." For a second, nobody moved. Rain hammered the windows. The country song ended and another one started. Maya's eyes were huge, darting between them. The man's expression shifted, surprise to annoyance to something uglier. "This doesn't concern you, friend." "I'm not your friend." "And yeah, it does. I'm having a conversation with the waitress about service. You're grabbing someone who asked you not to. That's not a conversation." The man's jaw tightened. He still hadn't released Maya. "Do you know who I am?" "Don't care." "You should." He said it like a threat wrapped in a warning, wrapped in absolute certainty. "My name is Victor Hale. I own half the commercial real estate in this county, and I know the sheriff personally. So whatever white knight fantasy you're indulging right now, I'd suggest you walk it back before you make a mistake you can't afford." Ethan had heard that speech before. Different words, same tune. Rich guys who thought money was armor, who'd never had anyone push back because everyone around them needed something. A favor, a job, approval. Whatever kept them in line. "Great resume," Ethan said. "Now let go of her before I make you." Victor's face went red. "You're threatening me. I'm telling you what happens next if you don't get your hands off her in the next 3 seconds. This is assault. 1. I will have you arrested. 2. Maya whispered, "Please, it's okay. Just let it go." 3. Ethan moved into Victor's space, not touching him yet, but close enough that the threat was physical, real. Victor was taller by an inch, but soft in the middle, unused to people who didn't fold. Ethan had 4 inches of reach and muscle memory from 1,000 situations that went from talking to not talking in a heartbeat. Victor let go. Maya stumbled backward, cradling her arm. The trucker slid off his stool, already moving toward the door. The couple grabbed their jackets. Ethan didn't look at them, kept his eyes on Victor, who was breathing hard through his nose. "You just made the worst decision of your life." Victor straightened his jacket. "I'll have your name, your address, everything. By morning, you'll wish you'd kept your mouth shut. Good luck with that." Victor pulled out his phone, already dialing. "Sheriff Hayes? Yes, Victor Hale. I'm at Mel's Diner on Route 9 and I need a deputy here immediately. I've been assaulted. Yes, physically threatened. I want this man arrested." He kept talking, but Ethan turned to Maya. "You okay?" She nodded, but tears were starting. "You didn't have to. I'm so sorry. Not your fault. He's Victor Hale. People don't say no to him. You don't understand what you just did." Maybe she was right. Probably she was right. But Ethan was tired of understanding things, tired of walking away from things, tired of letting the world grind people down while everyone pretended not to see. Victor ended his call. "Deputy's 5 minutes out. I hope whatever point you were making was worth it, because your life as you know it just ended." "Yeah," Ethan said. "I've heard that before too." The cook appeared from the kitchen, a heavy-set guy with prison tattoos and tired eyes that said he'd seen this movie before and knew how it ended. "Miss, you want me to call someone?" Maya shook her head. "No, I don't know." "Call Mel," the cook said. "Tell him what happened. This asshole's been in here before. Acts like he owns the place." "I do own the place," Victor snapped. "I own the building. I own the property. I own—" "Nobody owns people," Ethan said quietly. Victor laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You really believe that? You actually think standing up makes you noble? Let me educate you, hero. This is how the world works. I say what happened. My lawyers make it stick. Judges who owe me favors sign whatever needs signing. And you?" He pointed. "You disappear. Nobody remembers your name. Nobody cares because people like you are disposable, and people like me write the reality everyone else lives in." Blue lights flickered through the rain outside. The deputy came in shaking water off his hat. Young, maybe 25, with the kind of eager expression that said he still believed the job was about helping people. His name tag read, Morrison. "Mr. Hale." He nodded respectfully. Then to Ethan. "Sir, I need you to step outside." "This man assaulted me," Victor said immediately. "Threatened me, created a hostile situation, terrified the staff. I want him arrested and charged." Morrison looked at Maya. "Miss, is that what happened?" Maya opened her mouth.
closed it. Her eyes went to Victor, who smiled encouragingly, the kind of smile that held promises and threats in equal measure. She swallowed. There was an altercation, yes. Did this man threaten you or Mr. Hale? Ethan kept his mouth shut. Nothing he said would matter. Morrison was already seeing what he expected to see. A troublemaker and an upstanding citizen. The math was done. Maya looked at Ethan.
Something passed across her face, guilt, maybe, or recognition. Then, Mr. Hale grabbed my arm. I asked him to stop. He didn't. This man intervened. Morrison blinked. So, Mr. Hale grabbed you first? Yes. Victor's expression went nuclear. That's a lie. She's confused. This man intimidated her into... I'm not confused, Maya said, voice stronger now. You grabbed me. He told you to stop. That's what happened. The cook nodded. I saw it too. Hale's been handsy before. Tonight, he crossed a line. Morrison looked between them, clearly doing math that didn't add up to what he'd expected. Mr. Hale, maybe you should do your job, Victor hissed. I'm the victim here. This man, he gestured at Ethan, created a dangerous situation. By asking you to let go of someone? Morrison's tone shifted. Still respectful, but cooler. Sir, if you put your hands on the waitress against her will, that's actually, I want your badge number. I want your supervisor's name. Do you understand who you're talking to? Yes, sir, and I'm trying to establish what actually happened. What happened is this drifter assaulted me, and now you're letting him walk because some waitress got hysterical. Hey! Ethan's voice cut through. Watch your mouth. Victor wheeled on him. Or what? You'll hit me? Please. Give me a reason. I'll own everything you've ever touched. Morrison stepped between them. Everybody calm down. Mr. Haley, I'm going to need you to step outside with me. Sir. To Ethan. You stay here. Victor stared at Morrison like he'd spoken a foreign language. You're joking. No, sir. Let's talk outside. I'm not going anywhere. I'm filing a formal complaint. You can do that at the station. Right now, I need statements from everyone involved, and that means separating parties. So please, step outside. For a long moment, Victor didn't move. Then he smiled, the kind that said, this wasn't over, not even close. Fine, but you're making a mistake, deputy. A career-ending mistake. He walked out, making sure to bump Ethan's shoulder on the way past. Ethan didn't react. Morrison followed, pausing at the door. Don't leave, he told Ethan. I'll be back in a few minutes. Then they were gone, and the diner fell into humming silence. Maya sagged against the counter. Oh my God, this is bad. This is really bad. You did the right thing, the cook said. No, you don't understand. Victor Hale doesn't just... He ruins people. He destroys them. There was a contractor who said no to some shady deal, and 3 months later his business was bankrupt, and his wife left him, and... She looked at Ethan with horrified eyes. What have you done? What have we done? Ethan picked up his coffee. It was cold now. Told the truth. The truth doesn't matter to people like him, Maya's voice cracked. He has lawyers, connections, money. He'll twist this into whatever he wants, and I'm just a waitress, and you're... Who even are you? Nobody important. Then you're screwed. We're both screwed. The cook lit a cigarette, even though there were no smoking signs everywhere. She's not wrong, man. Hale's a vindictive son of a bitch. He'll come after you. Let him. You don't get it. I get it fine. Ethan set the mug down. I get that rich assholes think they own everything. I get that most people are too scared or too broke or too tired to push back. I get all of it. But I'm not most people, and I'm real tired of watching guys like him get away with whatever they want because everyone's afraid. Maya wiped her eyes. That's easy to say now. Wait until the lawsuits start. Wait until you can't find work because he's blacklisted you. Wait until... The door banged open. Morrison came back in alone, looking troubled. Okay, here's the situation, mister. Hale is declining to press charges at this time. Ethan raised an eyebrow. At this time? He's reconsidering the evening's events, says maybe things got heated and he'd prefer to let it go. Morrison didn't sound convinced. So you're free to leave. What about him grabbing her? He denies it happened that way. Says it was a misunderstanding. Morrison looked at Maya. Do you want to file a complaint? Maya's face went pale. No, it's fine. You sure? Because if he put his hands on you, it's fine, really. I just want this to be over. Morrison nodded slowly. All right, but if you change your mind, you call the station. Ask for me directly. He handed her a card. Then to Ethan. You should probably go. Yeah. Outside, the rain had gentled to a drizzle. Victor's Mercedes was gone, taillights already disappeared into the night. Ethan stood under the diner's awning, watching water drip from the broken neon sign. The door opened behind him. Maya stepped out, hugging herself against the cold. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Yeah, I did. No, you really didn't. Nobody else would have. Ethan looked at her. Up close, he could see she was younger than he'd thought. 23, maybe 24. Old enough to be tired, young enough to still be surprised when the world showed its teeth. Why'd you tell the truth? He asked. You could have backed his story. Made your life easier. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't know. Stupidity? A death wish? Because for 1 second, someone stood up and I thought maybe I should too. She shook her head. It won't matter. He'll make this go away and then he'll make us pay for it. Maybe. Definitely. She looked back through the diner window. I should quit. Find something else before he burns this place down out of spite. That what you want? Doesn't matter what I want. Matters what I can survive. Ethan had nothing to say to that. It was too true, too familiar. The math of being broke and afraid, where every decision was calculated against how much pain you could absorb. For what it's worth, Maya said. Thanks. Even if it ends badly. It was nice to see someone tell him no. You told him no first. Yeah, and look how well that worked. She smiled sadly. Go home. Get some sleep. Maybe this blows over and nothing happens. They both knew she was lying. Ethan drove home through empty streets, the radio playing songs he didn't hear. His apartment was dark and cold, dishes in the sink from 3 days ago, Emma's drawing still stuck to the fridge with alphabet magnets. She'd drawn their family, stick figures holding hands under a triangle house and a circle sun. Sarah was smiling. Ethan was smiling. Emma was in the middle, safe. The drawing was 4 months old, back when things were just hard, not broken. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Emma wants to know if you're coming to her soccer game Saturday. Please don't promise if you're going to cancel again. Ethan stared at the message. He'd missed the last 2 games. Not because he didn't care, because the jobs weren't regular and the money wasn't enough, and if he turned down a Saturday shift, they might not call again. Sarah didn't want to hear that. She just wanted him to be there, like it was simple, like he could choose. Maybe he could have. Maybe he'd just gotten good at choosing wrong. He typed, I'll be there. Then he deleted it and wrote, I'll try. Then he deleted that too and turned off the phone. Sleep didn't come easy. When it finally did, his dreams were full of doors he couldn't open and voices he couldn't reach and Emma calling for him from somewhere he couldn't find. Morning arrived gray and headachy. Ethan checked his phone, 2 missed calls from a number he didn't recognize, 1 voicemail. He played it while making coffee that tasted like burnt dirt. Mr. Cole, this is Janet Reeves from Hanson Moving and Storage. We're calling to inform you that your contract with us has been terminated effective immediately. We appreciate your service, but we're restructuring our contractor roster. You can pick up your final check on Friday. Thank you. Click. Ethan listened to it twice, waiting for it to make sense. Hanson was his main gig, 60% of his income. He'd worked for them for 8 months. Never missed a day. Never damaged anything. Restructuring. Right. He called back. Got Janet's voicemail. Left a message asking for clarification. Called his supervisor, Mike. Straight to voicemail. Called the main office. The receptionist said Mike was in a meeting and couldn't be disturbed. By noon, he'd tried 6 times. Nobody was calling back. The second hit came at 2 p.m. Ethan. Yeah, hey, it's Doug. Listen, I gotta cancel you for this weekend's delivery run. Something came up. Doug ran a furniture store in Richmond. Small operation, but consistent work. Ethan had been hauling for him for over a year. What came up? Pause. Just business stuff. Cash flow. You know how it is. Doug, I've got the truck reserved, the route planned.
I know, and I feel terrible, but I can't use you right now. Maybe in a few weeks when things settle down. Settle down from what? Another pause, longer. Look, I don't want to get into it, but I got a call this morning from someone suggesting that maybe working with you was a liability I couldn't afford. That's all I'm going to say. Ethan's grip tightened on the phone. Who called you? Doesn't matter. I got a business to protect, man. I'm sorry, I really am. But I can't get mixed up in whatever you got going on. I don't have anything going on. Then why is some lawyer asking me questions about your character and reliability? Why am I hearing you got into an altercation last night? Look, I don't know what's true and what's not, but I can't afford to find out. I'm sorry. The line went dead.
Ethan sat in his truck, parked outside a 7-Eleven, watching people come and go with their coffee and lottery tickets and normal problems. His phone felt heavy in his hand. This was it then. Victor keeping his promise. Not with cops or courts, with phone calls and pressure, quiet words to the right people. Easier than fighting, cleaner than lawsuits. Just erase someone from the economy until they stopped existing. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You should have minded your business. This is just the beginning. No signature. Didn't need one. Ethan drove to Hanson's office anyway. Maybe if he showed up in person, if he talked to Mike face to face, he could salvage something. The receptionist looked uncomfortable when he walked in. Mr. Cole, I need to talk to Mike. He's not available. I'll wait. She glanced at someone behind him. Ethan turned. Security guard. Maybe 50. Looking apologetic. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I just want to talk to my supervisor. I understand, but you're no longer employed here, and this is private property. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. The whole office was watching now. People he'd worked with, drunk coffee with, joked with during long hauls. They looked away when he met their eyes. Ethan left. He sat in the truck for 20 minutes making calls. By the time he gave up, the picture was clear. Every company he'd worked with in the past year had suddenly decided they didn't need him. Some gave excuses. Some just stopped answering. One guy he'd known for 3 years said, "I'm sorry, but I got kids to feed. Whatever you did to piss off Victor Hale, that's your problem, not mine." The rent was due in 12 days. Emma's child support was due in 8, his truck payment in 6. The numbers didn't work even when he had the jobs. Without them, it was just math counting down to 0. His phone rang. Unknown number again. He almost didn't answer. Mr. Cole? This is Robert Marsh from Marsh & Associates. I'm an attorney representing Victor Hale. I'm calling regarding the incident at Mel's Diner last night. Yeah? My client is prepared to offer you a settlement, $25,000 in exchange for a signed statement acknowledging that you initiated the confrontation, that Mr. Hale acted in self-defense, and that you will make no further accusations or defamatory statements regarding my client. Ethan laughed. It came out bitter. You're joking. I assure you I'm not. This is a generous offer considering the alternative, which is a civil suit for assault, defamation, and emotional distress. My client has witnesses who will testify that you became violent and threatening without provocation. He has the resources to pursue this litigation for years. You? Marsh paused delicately. I understand you've recently experienced some employment difficulties. This money could help with that. He destroys my livelihood and then offers to pay me to say I'm the bad guy? My client didn't destroy anything. He simply shared concerns about your character with business associates. What they chose to do with that information was their decision. But yes, the offer stands. $25,000 to make this go away quietly. But tell your client to go to hell. Mr. Cole, I'm not signing anything. I'm not lying about what happened. And you can tell Victor Hale that all his money won't change the truth. The truth, Marsh said slowly, is whatever we can prove in court, and my client can prove quite a lot. This offer expires in 48 hours. After that, we file suit. Think carefully about what you stand to lose. Ethan hung up. He didn't go home. Instead, he drove back to Route 9, back to Mel's Diner, where all of this had started. The parking lot was empty except for Maya's rusted sedan. Through the window, he could see her wiping down tables, moving like someone underwater. The door stuck again. She looked up when he came in, and her face went through fear to recognition to something like relief. You shouldn't be here, she said. Yeah, probably not. He's going after you, isn't he? Victor. Pretty much destroyed my whole life in about 12 hours. Impressive, really. Maya closed her eyes. God, I'm sorry. This is my fault. No, it's not. Yes, it is. You stepped in because of me, and now I stepped in because someone needed to. Don't put that on yourself. She laughed, and it was close to crying. Easy for you to say. You're the one losing everything. Already lost most of it before last night. Ethan slid onto a stool. Coffee? We're closed. Please? She poured 2 cups and sat across from him. For a while, they just drank in silence. Outside, afternoon sun broke through the clouds, hitting the wet pavement in steam. What are you going to do? Maya asked finally. Don't know yet. He offered you money, didn't he, to shut up? Ethan nodded. 25,000. That's a lot of money. Yeah. Are you going to take it? He looked at her. Would you? Maya stared into her coffee. I don't know. Probably. I mean, what's the point of losing everything for nothing? He wins either way. At least with the money you could... She stopped. I'm a coward. That's what you're thinking. I'm thinking you're honest. Same thing sometimes. She pushed her cup away. I should tell you something. I'm not really Maya. Ethan waited. My real name is Lena. Lena Vaughn. I'm using a fake name because... She took a breath, but because my father is Richard Vaughn. You probably haven't heard of him, but he's kind of a big deal in tech. Billionaire, owns half of Silicon Valley, all that. And I ran away 6 months ago because I couldn't stand that world anymore. The fake people, the money fixing everything, nobody ever facing real consequences. So I came out here to be nobody for a while. Be normal. Maya the waitress, not Lena the trust fund kid. Ethan absorbed this. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What else do you want me to say? I don't know. Most people would... She stopped. The point is, Victor Hale doesn't know who I am. Nobody here does. But if this goes public, if there's a trial or media attention, my father will find out where I am. He'll drag me back, and this little escape I've built will be over. So I'm stuck. I can't help you fight this without destroying myself, and I hate that I'm this weak. You're not weak, Ethan said. You're just caught in a bad spot like everyone else. But you're not taking the money. No. Why not? He thought about Emma's drawing on the fridge, about Sarah telling him he always chose wrong, about all the times he'd let things slide because fighting cost too much and losing was guaranteed, and what was the point anyway? Because I'm tired of being the guy who walks away, he said finally. Because my daughter is going to ask me someday what I did when things got hard, and I'd like to have an answer that doesn't make me ashamed. Because maybe it doesn't matter if I lose as long as I don't quit. Lena was crying now, quiet tears that she didn't bother wiping away. You're going to get destroyed. Probably. He has everything. Money, lawyers, connections. Yeah. You have nothing. I have the truth. That won't be enough. Maybe not. But it's what I've got. They sat there as the sun moved across the diner floor, making patterns on the worn linoleum. Somewhere in the kitchen, a refrigerator hummed. A car passed on the highway, tires hissing on wet pavement. Finally, Lena said, I'll testify if it comes to that. I'll tell them exactly what happened, even if it means my father finds me. It's the least I can do. You don't have to... Yes, I do. You stood up when nobody else would. The least I can do is stand beside you when it falls apart. Ethan's phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Emma's game is at 10 a.m. Saturday. Field 3. Please don't let her down again. He looked at the message for a long time. Then he typed back. I'll be there. I promise. This time he meant it. Whatever Victor Hale had planned, whatever was coming, it could wait until after he watched his daughter play soccer. Some things were still his, even if everything else was burning. Lena stood up. I should get back to work before Mel wonders why I'm having coffee with customers during my shift. Thanks, Ethan said, for telling the truth last night, for being willing to do it again. Thank the waitress who actually had the guts to say something. I'm just trying not to be a coward. You're doing better than you think. She smiled sadly. We'll see. Check back with me when we're both unemployed and homeless. Ethan left as evening shadows stretched across the parking lot. His truck started rough, engine coughing before it caught. The check engine light glowed orange on the dashboard, another problem he couldn't afford to fix. His phone rang as he pulled onto the highway. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, crisp and professional. This is Amanda Chen from Channel 7 News. I'm calling about an incident at Mel's Diner involving you and investor Victor Hale. We've heard there was an altercation, and we'd like to get your side of the story. How did you hear about that? We received an anonymous tip with some very interesting details. Would you be willing to do an on-camera interview? No. Mr. Cole, I understand you might be hesitant, but this is your chance to tell your version of events before the narrative gets away from you. Mr. Hale has already given us a statement claiming you assaulted him without provocation in front of multiple witnesses. That's not what happened. Then tell us what did happen. On the record. We can meet anywhere you'd like. Protect your identity if you prefer. I said no. Mr. Cole. He hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. He let it go to voicemail. Then another call, and another. By the time he got home, he had 7 missed calls from different reporters and a voicemail from someone claiming to be from TMZ. The story was out there now, spreading in whatever twisted version Victor wanted people to hear. Ethan pulled up his laptop and searched his own name. 3 articles already, all posted in the last 2 hours. Tech investor Victor Hale assaulted at local diner. Man threatens prominent businessman in unprovoked attack. Victor Hale escapes violent confrontation, pressing charges. The details were all wrong. They painted Ethan as unstable, aggressive, possibly drunk. Quotes from witnesses who saw him become belligerent for no reason. Photos of Victor looking dignified and concerned. One article even mentioned Ethan's military service, using words like PTSD and erratic behavior and dangerous. Not one mentioned Maya, not one mentioned Victor grabbing her. The truth had been erased and replaced with something uglier, simpler, easier to believe. Ethan's phone rang again. This time he answered. Stop calling me. Mr. Cole, this is Beth Harmon from Legal Aid Services. I'm not a reporter, I'm an attorney, and I think you might need help. Ethan hesitated. I can't afford a lawyer. I'm not asking you to. I work for a nonprofit that provides legal representation to people who can't afford it. I saw the news coverage, and frankly, it smells wrong. Victor Hale has a history. Several complaints about inappropriate behavior that got buried, settlements that disappeared, NDAs that kept victims quiet. If you're willing to fight this, I might be able to help. Pro bono. Why? Because I'm tired of watching rich men get away with whatever they want. Because the system is broken and most people don't have the resources to push back. Because every now and then someone stands up and I'd like to make sure they don't get crushed for it. She paused. I'm not promising miracles. Hale has money and connections, and this will get ugly. But if you want to fight, I'll stand with you. What do you say? Ethan looked around his empty apartment, at Emma's drawings and Sarah's texts and the bills stacked on the counter, at the life he'd somehow let slip through his fingers while he wasn't paying attention. Yeah, he said finally. Yeah, let's fight. Beth Harmon's office was a converted storefront in a strip mall between a check-cashing place and a discount tire shop. The sign out front said Legal Aid Services in faded letters, half of them peeling off. Inside smelled like old coffee and printer toner, with file boxes stacked against every wall and a reception desk manned by nobody. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early on Thursday morning. A woman in her 40s appeared from a back room, carrying 3 folders and looking like she'd already had a long day. She wore jeans and a blazer with ink stains on the cuff. Mr. Cole? Beth Harmon. She shook his hand firmly. Come on back. Sorry about the mess. We're understaffed, underfunded, and generally overwhelmed, but we make it work. Her office was worse than the lobby. Papers covered every surface, a dyeing plant wilted in the corner, and her desk chair was held together with duct tape. She cleared a stack of files off the visitor's chair and gestured for him to sit. Coffee? It's terrible, but it's free. I'm good. Beth sat down and opened one of her folders. Okay. I spent last night reading everything I could find about your situation. The news coverage is uniformly awful, by the way. They're painting you as some violent drifter with anger issues. Victor Hale is playing the victim beautifully. He's good at this. Yeah, I noticed. The positive side is that his story has holes. He claims you attacked him without provocation, but Deputy Morrison's report mentions the waitress saying Hale grabbed her first. That's buried on page 2, but it's there. And Hale trying to make this disappear quietly with a settlement offer suggests he knows his version doesn't hold up under scrutiny. So what do? Beth leaned back, making her chair creak ominously. First, understand what we're up against. Victor Hale has 3 law firms on retainer. He's filed a civil suit for assault, defamation, and emotional distress, seeking $2 million in damages. That's designed to scare you into settling or just giving up entirely. He's also lobbying the district attorney to press criminal charges for assault and making terroristic threats. Ethan felt something cold settle in his stomach. Terroristic threats? He's claiming you said you'd kill him if he didn't leave the diner. 2 witnesses have given statements supporting that. I never said that. I believe you. But we'll need to prove it. The problem is that Hale has money to make witnesses say whatever he wants. Not everyone. Deputy Morrison seems honest, and the waitress backed you up initially, but enough to muddy the waters. Right now it's he said, she said, except he's a respected businessman, and you're, she paused delicately, nobody. I was going to say disadvantaged by the optics, but yeah, the court of public opinion has already convicted you. We need to change that narrative before this goes to trial. How? Beth pulled out another folder. We build our case piece by piece. Get statements from everyone who was there. Find other people Hale has victimized. I guarantee you're not the first. Document the retaliation against your employment. File counterclaims. Make enough noise that the media has to cover both sides. She looked at him seriously. But I need you to understand something. This will get worse before it gets better. Hale will escalate. He'll dig into your past, your finances, your family. Every mistake you've ever made will become ammunition. Can you handle that? Ethan thought about Sarah and Emma, about his daughter asking why Daddy was on TV, why people were saying mean things. Do I have a choice? You can take the settlement. Walk away. Let him win. That's not a choice. Beth smiled slightly. Good. Then let's make his life difficult. She spent the next hour walking him through depositions and discovery, explaining legal strategies in language that made his head hurt. By the time they finished, Ethan's hands were shaking from too much adrenaline and not enough sleep. One more thing, Beth said as he stood to leave. The waitress who backed you up, Maya. I need to talk to her, get a formal statement. You have contact information? Just the diner. That'll work. I'll head over there this afternoon. She walked him to the door. Ethan, you did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but standing up matters, even when it costs. Ethan drove to Emma's school, timing it so he'd be there when she got out. He hadn't told Sarah he was coming. She'd probably just tell him not to, that he'd confuse Emma, that he needed to stay away until things were stable. But he needed to see his daughter, needed to remember what he was doing this for. He parked across the street and waited. Kids poured out at 3:15, a chaotic stream of backpacks and laughter. Emma emerged near the end, her blonde hair in pigtails, her jacket tied around her waist. She was talking to another girl, animated, smiling. Ethan's chest hurt watching her. She looked so normal, so untouched by everything falling apart. He wanted to keep her that way, wanted to shield her from the ugliness, but he knew it was temporary. Eventually, some kid's parent would see the news and say something, and that poison would seep into her world too. Sarah appeared, walking toward Emma from the parking lot. She hadn't seen Ethan yet. She looked tired, her hair pulled back, carrying her work bag and Emma's forgotten lunchbox. When she reached Emma, his daughter's whole face lit up. Ethan started to get out of the truck, then stopped. What would he say? That he'd thrown away their financial stability to play hero? That he'd made their lives harder because he couldn't keep his mouth shut? Sarah would be furious. She'd tell him he was selfish, that he always put his pride before their family, that this was exactly why she'd left. Maybe she'd be right. He watched them get into Sarah's car and drive away. Emma never looked in his direction. Why would she? She didn't know he was there. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You're being followed. White sedan, 2 cars back. They've been on you since you left the lawyer's office. Ethan checked his mirrors. Sure enough, a white Camry sat 3 vehicles behind him in the drop-off lane. He couldn't see the driver clearly, but the car didn't move when the ones in front of it pulled away. He texted back. Who is this?
Someone who wants to help.
Lose the tail and meet me at Riverside Park in 20 minutes. Come alone. Ethan waited for more, but nothing came. He sat there weighing options, then pulled out into traffic. The Camry followed. He took 2 unnecessary turns, looped through a gas station, and watched the white car stay with him. Not subtle. They wanted him to know. He headed toward Riverside Park, a rundown stretch of grass and broken playground equipment along the James River. Halfway there, he turned into a shopping center, parked behind a delivery truck, and waited. The Camry drove past, slowed, then kept going. Ethan counted to 30 and took a back exit, cutting through residential streets until he was sure he'd lost them. The park was nearly empty, a few joggers, an old man feeding ducks. Ethan parked near the boat ramp and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. He was about to leave when someone knocked on his passenger window, Lena, except she didn't look like the waitress from the diner anymore. She wore expensive jeans, a leather jacket, and sunglasses that probably cost more than Ethan's truck payment. Her hair was down, styled. She looked like money trying not to look like money. He unlocked the door. She slid in. "You texted me?" "Burner phone. I've been watching you since this morning." She pulled off the sunglasses. "Victor has people following you, taking photos, documenting everywhere you go. He's building a narrative that you're unstable, possibly dangerous. The private investigator he hired used to work for him in some shady real estate deals. Guy has no problem manufacturing evidence." "How do you know all this?" Lena looked uncomfortable. "I made some calls, used some resources I swore I wouldn't touch, called in favors from people in my old life." "Your father?" "He doesn't know I'm involved. Not yet. But I reached out to someone who works in his security division. Had them do some digging on Victor." She pulled out a phone and scrolled through photos. "Look at this." The first image showed Victor at a restaurant with 3 men in suits, all of them laughing. "That's Victor with county commissioners 2 weeks ago. They approved his last 3 development projects without environmental review." Next photo, Victor shaking hands with a judge. Circuit Court Judge Brennan ruled in Victor's favor on 4 separate lawsuits. They golfed together. And another, Victor at what looked like a political fundraiser. Senator Matthews. Victor donated $200,000 to his campaign last year. Matthews sits on the committee that oversees the DA's office. Lena put the phone away. Victor's not just rich. He's connected at every level. Judges, politicians, law enforcement. He's got them all in his pocket one way or another. That's why he thinks he's untouchable. Because he basically is. Ethan stared through the windshield at the muddy river. "So why are you telling me this? To convince me I've already lost?" "To convince you we need to be smarter than him. Your lawyer seems good, but she's fighting fair in a rigged game. We need leverage. Something that makes Victor more afraid of what we'll expose than what will cost him." "Like what?" "Like proof he's been doing this for years. Assaulting women, using his power to silence them, paying off anyone who pushes back. I've been digging through old lawsuits, sealed settlements, NDAs. There's a pattern. At least 7 women over the past decade who filed complaints and then suddenly dropped them. All of them got paid. All of them signed agreements never to talk about it. Can we break those agreements? Legally, no. But if enough people come forward together, if we can show a pattern of predatory behavior, the NDAs start looking like a cover-up instead of privacy protection. Public pressure might convince some of them to talk anyway." Ethan looked at her. This is a lot of work for someone who just wanted to be a waitress and stay hidden. Lena's jaw tightened. "Yeah, well, turns out I'm bad at staying hidden when someone needs help. Victor grabbed me like I was property, like I didn't matter. And I've been around men like that my whole life. Powerful, arrogant, untouchable. They do whatever they want because nobody stops them. You stopped him. The least I can do is help you survive it. Your father's going to find out eventually." "I know," she said it quietly. "When this goes public, when my name comes up as a witness, he'll know exactly where I've been for the past 6 months. He'll send people to drag me back to that world. But I can't keep hiding while you take all the hits. That's not who I want to be." They sat in silence for a moment. A jogger passed, earbuds in, oblivious. The old man had run out of bread and was walking slowly back to his car. "So what's the plan?" Ethan asked. "I'm meeting with your lawyer tomorrow. I'll give her everything I've found. Names, dates, settlement amounts. Then we start reaching out to Victor's other victims. See if any of them are willing to talk. even off the record. We build a case that this isn't about one incident in a diner. It's about a pattern of abuse enabled by money and power. That could take months. We don't have months. Victor's pushing for a quick trial, probably within 60 days. He wants to crush you before you can organize a real defense. So we work fast. She opened the door. I'll contact you through the burner number. Don't call me at the diner and don't try to find me. Victor's watching you, which means he's watching everyone you interact with. Lena. Yeah? Thank you for not taking the easy way out. She smiled sadly. Ask me if I'm grateful when this is over and we're both destroyed. She left him there and disappeared into the park. Ethan watched her go, then checked his mirrors before pulling out. No white Camry, no obvious tails. But he felt watched anyway, like the air itself had eyes. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. Ethan put on clean clothes, shaved, and tried to look like a father instead of a man whose life was imploding. He got to the soccer field early, parking where Sarah wouldn't see him immediately. The field was chaos, kids warming up, parents setting up folding chairs, coaches shouting encouragement. Emma's team wore green jerseys. She was in the goal during warm-ups, looking tiny against the net, her face serious with concentration. Ethan found a spot along the sideline, away from the main cluster of parents. A few people glanced at him, and he wondered if they'd seen the news. Probably not. Most people didn't pay attention to local news unless it affected them directly. Sarah spotted him after 5 minutes. She came over, her expression tight. You actually showed up. Said I would. You say a lot of things. She crossed her arms. How long are you staying? The whole game. And after, when she asked when she can see you again? I'll figure it out. Sarah shook her head. But that's always your answer. Figure it out later. Deal with it when it happens. You know what Emma asked me last night? She asked if you still loved her. A 7-year-old shouldn't have to ask that. The words hit like a fist. Of course I love her. Then act like it. Be present. Be reliable. Stop making promises you can't keep because you're too busy being noble or self-destructive or whatever you're telling yourself this week. She paused. I saw the news about you and some investor. Is that why you lost your contracts? Yeah. What did you do? Stopped him from grabbing a waitress. Sarah closed her eyes. Of course you did. Of course you threw away everything to play hero for a stranger. It's not about playing hero. He was hurting someone. And now what? Now you're broke and blacklisted and probably getting sued, and Emma and I are caught in the fallout again. Do you ever think before you act? Do you ever consider that your choices affect more than just you? Every day. Then why do you keep choosing this? Her voice cracked slightly. Why do you keep choosing to be the guy who stands up instead of the guy who comes home? I needed you. Emma needs you, but you're always somewhere else, fighting someone else's battle. Ethan had no answer that wouldn't sound like an excuse. Sarah stared at him for a long moment, then walked back to the other parents. He watched her go, feeling the distance between them like a physical thing. The game started. Emma's team went down 1-0 in the first 5 minutes. She let in another goal just before halftime, and Ethan could see her shoulders slump. During the break, her coach knelt beside her, saying something Ethan couldn't hear. Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. The second half went better. Emma made 2 good saves, diving for one that drew cheers from the parents. Her team scored twice and won 2-1. When the final whistle blew, Emma's teammates mobbed her, and for a moment she was just a kid who'd played well, grinning and laughing. Then she saw Ethan. She ran over, cleats kicking up grass, and crashed into him. He caught her, lifting her up even though she was probably too old for that now. You came. Mom said you probably wouldn't, but you came. Told you I would. He set her down. You played great. That save in the second half was amazing. I was scared I'd mess up again after the first 2 goals. But you didn't. You kept trying. That's what matters. Emma hugged him again, and Ethan felt something break open in his chest. This was what he was fighting for. Not justice or principle or proving something to Victor Hale. This moment right here being someone his daughter could count on. Sarah appeared, carrying Emma's gear bag. Time to go, sweetie. We've got lunch plans. Can Daddy come? Sarah's expression said absolutely not, but she looked at Emma's hopeful face and sighed. Maybe another time. Your dad's busy today. I'm not busy, Ethan said quietly.
Sarah shot him a look that could strip paint. Emma, go get your water bottle. I need to talk to your dad. Emma ran off. Sarah waited until she was out of earshot. Don't do this. Don't make promises you can't keep. I can keep this one. Lunch. That's it, 2 hours. You're being sued for $2 million. You lost all your work. What happens when you can't make child support? When the lawyers start garnishing everything? You think Emma won't notice when you disappear because you can't afford to be in her life? I'm not disappearing. You already are. Sarah's voice was tired now, not angry. You're so focused on fighting this thing with Victor Hale that you're not seeing what's right in front of you. Emma needs stability. She needs to know her dad will be there, and I need to protect her from the chaos that follows you around. That's not fair, isn't it? You picked a fight with a billionaire, Ethan. You made that choice, and now Emma and I have to live with the consequences. Again. Emma ran back with her water bottle. Ready? Sarah looked at Ethan one more time, and he saw something close to pity in her eyes. You can come to lunch, but after that we need to talk about visitation. About what's realistic given your situation. They went to a diner, not Mel's, somewhere generic with laminated menus and tired waitstaff. Emma talked nonstop about school and soccer and a boy named Tyler who ate glue. Sarah stayed quiet, picking at a salad. Ethan tried to focus on his daughter, tried to be present, but part of him was already calculating the math of what came next. Rent was due in 8 days. He had maybe $2,000 in the bank. No income coming in. Child support was $500 a month. The truck payment was $350. If he didn't find work fast, the numbers stopped working entirely. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. Buzzed again. Emma was showing him a drawing she'd made in art class. Their family, just like the one on his fridge, except in this version he was standing farther away from Sarah and Emma. The distance was small, but deliberate. The phone kept buzzing. Sarah gave him a sharp look. You need to get that? No. But he checked anyway when Emma went to the bathroom. 7 missed calls. 3 voicemails. All from Beth Harmon. He listened to the first one. Ethan, call me immediately. Something's happened. Victor just filed an emergency restraining order claiming you threatened him again. There's a hearing Monday morning, and if the judge grants it, you won't be able to come within 500 feet of him, his businesses, or anyone associated with him. That includes the diner. Call me back. The second message, Ethan, I'm serious. This is bad. He's got an affidavit from someone claiming you showed up at his office yesterday making threats. I know you didn't, but we need to respond to this today. Call me. Third message. Where are you? The court just sent over the filing. He's also requesting you surrender any firearms and submit to a psychological evaluation. This is designed to make you look unstable. We need to talk strategy right now. Ethan looked up. Sarah was watching him, and she already knew. Somehow, she already knew. You have to leave, don't you? Sarah, it's fine. We're used to it. She stood up, pulling money from her purse. Emma, time to go. But we just got our food. Now, Emma. His daughter looked between them, confused and starting to tear up. What's wrong? What happened? Nothing, sweetie. Daddy just has to go take care of something. But he said he'd stay. I know what he said. Sarah took Emma's hand. Come on. Ethan stood. Emma, I'm sorry. I wanted to stay, but something came up that I have to deal with. You always say that. Emma pulled away from Sarah. You always leave. You never stay. People were staring now. The waitress hovering nearby, pretending not to listen. A family in the next booth looking uncomfortable. I know, baby, and I'm sorry. I don't care if you're sorry. I want you to stay. She was crying now, big, heaving sobs. Why do you always leave? Ethan knelt down, trying to hug her, but she pushed him away. Sarah picked her up, even though she was too big for that now, and Emma buried her face in her mother's shoulder. You should go, Sarah said quietly. You're just making it worse. Sarah, please. Go, Ethan. He left $40 on the table and walked out. Behind him, he could hear Emma crying. The sound followed him to the parking lot, into his truck, down the highway. His phone kept ringing. Beth. Unknown numbers. A text from the burner phone. They're accelerating. Be careful. He pulled over at a gas station and called Beth back. Where have you been? She sounded frantic. I've been trying to reach you for 3 hours.
I was with my daughter. What's going on? Victor filed an emergency protective order. He claims you showed up at his office building yesterday, tried to force your way past security, and made threats against his life. He's got security footage and witness statements. I was nowhere near his office yesterday. I was at the park, then home. Can you prove that? Ethan thought. No. I was alone most of the day. That's what I was afraid of. The hearing's Monday at 9 a.m. We need to file a response and gather any evidence that you weren't there. Phone records, credit card receipts, anything that shows you were somewhere else. I paid cash for gas. Didn't use my phone much. Beth swore softly. Okay, we'll figure this out. Can you come to my office tomorrow? We need to prep. Yeah. Ethan, this is serious. If the judge grants this order, it gives Victor ammunition for the criminal case. It makes you look dangerous. We can't afford to lose on Monday. I know. He sat in the truck outside the gas station, watching people come and go with their normal problems. A guy arguing with someone on the phone. A woman herding 3 kids toward the bathroom. A teenage employee changing the price signs, moving slow like he had all day. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Text from an unknown number. Told you this was just the beginning. Should have taken the money. No signature needed. He drove back to his apartment and found a notice taped to his door. Final notice in red letters. Rent was due and the landlord was done waiting. He had until the 15th to pay or vacate. 5 days. Inside, the apartment was exactly as he'd left it. Dishes still in the sink, Emma's drawings still on the fridge, that same heavy silence. He sat at the kitchen table and opened his laptop, searching for work. Applied to 6 moving companies, 3 warehouses, a delivery service. Filled out applications using an email address that probably already had dozens of automated rejections. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered anyway. Mr. Cole? A man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Detective Marcus Chen with the Richmond Police Department. I need you to come down to the station and answer some questions regarding an incident at the Riverside Financial Building yesterday afternoon. I wasn't anywhere near that building. That's not what the security footage shows. Then someone's lying. I was nowhere near downtown yesterday. Mr. Cole, I'm trying to do this the easy way. You can come in voluntarily and we can clear this up, or I can get a warrant and make it official. What's it going to be? Ethan closed his eyes. I'll come in. When? Tonight, if possible. Say 8 o'clock? I'll be there. He called Beth, got her voicemail, left a message about the detective, then sat there trying to figure out how security footage could show him somewhere he'd never been. Deep fake? Someone who looked similar? Or just a straight lie, counting on him not being able to prove otherwise? At 7:30, he drove to the police station. The building was new, all glass and concrete, the kind that tried to look friendly and professional. Inside smelled like floor wax and old coffee. The desk sergeant directed him to the 3rd floor. Detective Chen met him in the lobby. Asian guy, maybe 40, tired eyes, and a wedding ring that looked like it got taken off and put on a lot. Mr. Cole, thanks for coming in. This way. They went to an interview room. Small, windowless, a table and 3 chairs. Chen gestured for Ethan to sit, then took the chair across from him. A camera blinked red in the corner. You're not under arrest, Chen said. But I'm going to record this conversation. You can have a lawyer present if you want. I've got nothing to hide. Good. Chen pulled out a folder. Yesterday, approximately 4 p.m., security cameras at the Riverside Financial Building captured footage of a man matching your description entering the lobby, asking for Victor Hale's office, and becoming agitated when told Mr. Hale wasn't taking visitors. The man allegedly said, he checked his notes, "Tell him Ethan Cole is here to finish what we started." Security escorted him out. Is that accurate? No, I wasn't there. Where were you at 4 p.m. yesterday? Riverside Park. Then home. Anyone with you? No. Any receipts? Phone calls? Anything that proves your location? Ethan shook his head. Chen slid a photo across the table. Security camera screenshot, grainy but clear enough. A man in a baseball cap and jacket, face partially visible, standing in a lobby. The build was similar to Ethan's, the posture close. But it wasn't him. That's not me. Looks like you. It's not. Chen studied him for a long moment. Mr. Cole, I'm going to be straight with you. Victor Hale is a prominent citizen with connections all over the city. He says you assaulted him, stalked him, threatened him. He's got witnesses, security footage, a pattern of harassment. On the other side, I've got you, an unemployed ex-Marine with no alibi and a history of... He checked his notes again. 2 domestic disturbance calls at your address in the past year. Those were arguments with my ex-wife. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got arrested. Still looks bad, especially combined with everything else. So you've already decided I'm guilty. I'm trying to give you a chance to explain before this goes somewhere neither of us wants. Chen leaned forward. Here's what I think happened. You're going through a tough time. Divorce, money problems, everything falling apart. Victor Hale got under your skin and you acted out. Maybe you didn't mean for it to go this far. Maybe you just wanted to scare him a little. But now it's escalating and you need to step back before you do something you really can't take back. I didn't do any of this. Then help me understand. Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a man with everything to lose and nothing to gain by telling the truth. Victor's offering you a way out. Take the settlement, admit you were wrong, move on with your life. Why wouldn't you do that unless you've got something else driving you? Ego? Pride? Some need to be right even when it destroys you? Ethan stood up. Am I being charged with anything? Not yet. Then I'm leaving. If you want to talk to me again, call my lawyer. He walked out before Chen could respond, through the lobby and out into the night where the air felt too thin and his hands were shaking. His phone showed a text from Beth. Don't talk to the police without me, ever. Call me now. He called. She picked up on the first ring. Tell me you didn't talk to them. I did. He showed me footage of someone who looked like me, claimed I threatened Victor at his office. Beth swore. What did you say? That it wasn't me, that I wasn't there. Anything else? No. Good. Don't talk to them again. They're building a case and every word you say gives them ammunition. The hearing's Monday. We need to focus on that. Can you be at my office tomorrow at noon? We've got work to do. Yeah. He drove home through empty streets, past closed businesses and dark houses where people slept normal sleeps and woke to normal problems. His apartment felt smaller every time he came back to it, the walls pressing in. The notice on his door stared at him. 5 days. He had 5 days to come up with rent money he didn't have, to find work that didn't exist, to prove he was somewhere he couldn't prove, to be someone his daughter believed in. His phone buzzed, the burner number. I found 2 more victims willing to talk. Meeting them tomorrow night. I'll send you the address. Don't come alone. Bring your lawyer. Ethan texted back, Why are you doing this? The response came a minute later. Because someone has to. And because I'm tired of being the person who watches from the sidelines. See you tomorrow. He looked at Emma's drawing on the fridge one more time. The stick figure family holding hands, all of them smiling. It felt like something from another life before everything broke. His phone rang. Sarah. Hey, he said carefully. Emma cried herself to sleep. Her voice was flat. She kept asking why you left. I didn't have a good answer. I'm sorry. That doesn't fix anything, Ethan. Sorry doesn't make you reliable. It doesn't pay the bills or show up when you promise. It's just a word you use when you've already decided the thing that hurt us was more important than not hurting us. That's not fair, isn't it? You chose to fight Victor Hale. You chose to get involved. You chose everything that's happening right now. And Emma and I are paying for your choices. I'm trying to do the right thing. For who? For some waitress you don't even know? For your ego? Because it's sure as hell not for Emma. Sarah took a shaky breath. I'm filing for full custody, and I'm requesting supervised visitation only. The words hit like a truck. Sarah, no. You're unstable, Ethan. You're unemployed. You're being sued. You're apparently stalking people and making threats. None of that's true. It doesn't matter what's true. It matters what I can prove. And right now I can prove you're a mess who can't be trusted around our daughter. My lawyer says with the protective order and the police investigation, a judge will side with me. So unless you figure out your life in the next month, you'll be lucky to see Emma once a week with a supervisor present. You can't do this. I'm protecting our daughter. Something you should have thought about before you decided playing hero was more important than being her father. She hung up. Ethan stood in his kitchen, phone dead in his hand, and felt the walls finally close all the way in.
No work, no money, no daughter, no future that didn't end with him broken and alone. Exactly what Victor promised. But underneath the fear and despair, something else stirred, something harder. Victor Hale thought money could erase truth, that power meant being untouchable. He'd made one mistake, though. He'd assumed Ethan had something left to lose. Sunday morning came with rain again, the kind that turned everything gray and heavy. Ethan hadn't slept, just laid in bed watching the ceiling and listening to water hammer the windows. By 6 a.m., he gave up and made coffee that tasted like burnt metal. Beth's office at noon meant he had hours to kill. He tried applying to more jobs, but gave up after the third rejection email came back in under 10 minutes. Automated. Nobody was even reading his applications anymore. Victor's reach extended further than Ethan had imagined, poison spreading through every connection, every possibility. His phone buzzed, the burner number. Meetings at 7 p.m. Old Warehouse District, 428 Kenner Street. Bring your lawyer. These women are scared. Don't give them reason to run. Ethan texted back. How many? 2 confirmed. Maybe a third. They all signed NDAs. They're risking everything by talking. He sat with that for a while, thinking about people who'd already been crushed by Victor choosing to step back into his path. It took a certain kind of courage to face your nightmare twice. At 11:30, he drove to Beth's office. The parking lot was empty except for her beat-up Honda. Inside, she had files spread across every surface, sticky notes covering her computer monitor, 3 empty coffee cups forming a small pyramid. You look worse than I do, she said when he walked in. Didn't sleep. Yeah, me neither. Sit down. We've got a lot to cover before tomorrow's hearing. She walked him through the protective order process, explaining how the judge would weigh Victor's claims against Ethan's denials. The security footage was the problem. Even if it wasn't really Ethan, proving that would take forensic analysis they couldn't afford, and the judge probably wouldn't order. Our best argument is character witnesses, Beth said. People who can testify you're not violent, not unstable, not the kind of person who'd stalk and threaten someone. I've got Deputy Morrison willing to say you were calm during the original incident. The cook from the diner will testify Victor was the aggressor, but I need more. Family, friends, employers who can vouch for you. Ethan thought about that. My ex-wife's filing for full custody because she thinks I'm unstable. My employers all dropped me because Victor told them to. My friends? He stopped. When was the last time he'd had friends? Real ones, not just guys he worked with or nodded to at Emma's school events. I don't have anyone. Beth's expression softened. What about the waitress? Maya, or Lena, whatever her real name is. She was there. She knows the truth. She's already risking enough. If she shows up in court, if her name goes in official records, her father will find her. Then we're thin on witnesses, which means we focus on poking holes in Victor's story. The footage shows someone who looks like you, but is there any hard proof? Does the voice match? Does the security guard ID you specifically? We attack the weak points and hope the judge sees reasonable doubt. And if he doesn't? Then you can't go within 500 feet of Victor, his businesses, or anyone associated with him. That includes the diner, which means Lena loses her corroborating witness for the civil suit. It also makes the DA's office more likely to file criminal charges, because the protective order implies you're dangerous. We lose tomorrow, and the whole case starts collapsing. Ethan absorbed this. What are our chances? Beth didn't sugarcoat it. 40-60 against us. Maybe worse. Victor's lawyers are good, and the judge tends to err on the side of caution in protective order cases, especially when the petitioner is prominent and well-connected. So we're probably going to lose. Probably. But we show up, we fight hard, and we make them work for it. Sometimes that's all you can do. They spent the next 3 hours preparing testimony, reviewing documents, building a defense from scraps and hope. By the time Ethan left, his head was pounding and the rain had turned to sleet. He grabbed food from a drive-thru and ate it in the truck, watching sleet bounce off the windshield. The sandwich tasted like cardboard. Everything tasted like cardboard lately. At 6:30, he drove to the Warehouse District. Kenner Street was a row of abandoned industrial buildings, broken windows and graffiti, the kind of place cities forgot about. Number 428 was a 3-story brick structure with a faded sign that said Apex Manufacturing.
The loading dock doors hung open like missing teeth. Lena's car was already there, a different one than she'd had at the diner, something expensive and low to the ground. Beth's Honda pulled in behind Ethan, and they both got out into the freezing drizzle. "This is the meeting place?" Beth looked around skeptically. "Feels like a good spot to get mugged." "Or stay hidden," Ethan said. They went inside through a side door that hung crooked on broken hinges. The interior was gutted, machinery long gone, just concrete floors and steel beams and the smell of rust and bird droppings. Fluorescent lights flickered in a corner office, visible through grimy windows. Lena appeared from the darkness, making Beth jump. She'd lost the expensive clothes, back to jeans and a hoodie, but her face was different now. Harder. More focused. "You're late," she said. 2 minutes, Beth replied. "Who are we meeting?" 2 women Victor assaulted and paid off. One from 6 years ago, one from 3. They both signed NDAs with teeth, 6-figure penalties if they talk. Plus Victor's lawyers promised to destroy their lives if they violated the agreements. So they're terrified. Be gentle. She led them to the lit office. 2 women sat inside, both looking like they wanted to run. The first was maybe 30, black, with close-cropped hair and a scar above her left eyebrow. She wore a Target uniform and kept her arms crossed tight. The second was younger, mid-20s, white, thin in a way that suggested skipped meals and too much stress. Her hand shook when she lifted a coffee cup. "This is Beth Harmon," Lena said, gesturing. "She's a lawyer, but not Victor's. She's helping the man Victor attacked last week. And this is Ethan Cole. He's the one who stood up to Victor." The older woman looked Ethan over. "You're either brave or stupid." "Probably both," Ethan said. She almost smiled. "I'm Denise. I worked at one of Victor's properties as a cleaning supervisor. 6 years ago, he cornered me in a storage room and put his hands where they didn't belong. I pushed him off. He threatened to fire me and make sure I never worked in the city again. I reported it to HR, and 3 days later, I was offered $200,000 to sign an NDA and resign quietly. I had 2 kids and no husband. I took the money." The younger woman spoke next, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm Rachel. I was a paralegal at a firm that worked with Victor's companies. He invited me to dinner to discuss a case, then tried to force himself on me in his car afterward. I got away, but he called my boss the next morning and said I'd stolen confidential documents. I was fired before lunch. His lawyer showed up at my apartment that night with a settlement offer, $150,000 and an NDA. They said if I didn't sign, they'd prosecute me for theft and I'd go to prison. I believed them. I signed." Beth pulled out a legal pad. "How many others do you know about?" "At least 5, Denise said. Women who worked for Victor or around him who suddenly disappeared after a settlement. We don't talk about it. Part of the NDA is we can't communicate with each other about what happened. But you hear things. You see patterns." "Why are you willing to talk now?" Beth asked. Rachel looked at her coffee cup. "Because I'm tired of being scared. Because he's still doing it and nobody stops him. Because I saw the news about what he did to you." She nodded at Ethan. "And I thought maybe this time someone would actually fight back instead of just taking his money and disappearing." "The NDAs are still enforceable," Beth said carefully. "If you testify, if you go public, Victor's lawyers will come after you for breach of contract. They'll demand the settlement money back plus penalties. It could bankrupt you both." "I know," Denise said. "I've spent the last 6 years waiting for that knock on the door, waiting for him to decide I've violated the agreement somehow and take everything back. Living with that fear is worse than just facing it. At least this way I get to choose." Rachel nodded. "I can't keep hiding. I've changed jobs 3 times because I'm terrified he'll find out where I work and destroy me again. I barely sleep. Every time I see an expensive car or a man in a suit, I panic. This isn't living. It's just surviving his shadow." Beth wrote quickly. "I need formal statements from both of you, detailed accounts of what happened, dates, locations, any witnesses or documentation. Then I need you to understand that if we use this in court, Victor will go nuclear. He'll claim you're lying, that you violated the NDAs out of greed, that you're colluding with Ethan for money. His lawyers will dig into every corner of your lives looking for ammunition. It will be brutal." "More brutal than what he already did?" Denise's voice had an edge. "He assaulted me and then paid me to shut up about it.
He made me complicit in my own silence. Nothing his lawyers do can be worse than what I've already done to myself. They spent the next 2 hours going through statements, Beth asking questions while Lena recorded on her phone. Ethan mostly listened, watching these women rebuild their trauma in real time, each detail a small violence.
By the time they finished, Rachel was crying quietly and Denise looked hollowed out. "This is enough for a pattern," Beth said, reviewing her notes. 2 credible witnesses with similar stories, settlements that look like hush money, NDAs that function as legal intimidation. "If we can get this in front of a judge—" "We won't," Denise interrupted. "Not in the protective order hearing. That's about whether Ethan's dangerous, not about Victor's history. You'd need a separate motion to introduce prior bad acts, and Victor's lawyers will fight that hard."
Beth looked surprised. "You know legal procedure?" "I've spent 6 years reading law books, trying to find a way out of the NDA. Never found one. But I learned enough to know how this works." "Then you know we're at a disadvantage tomorrow." "Yeah, but at least now you're not alone in this. Whatever happens, at least 3 of us will know the truth." They left separately, staggered by 10 minutes to avoid drawing attention. Ethan waited until last, standing in the cold warehouse with Lena while Beth drove away. "Your father know about this yet?" Ethan asked. "Not yet, but he will soon. I've been using resources I shouldn't have access to. People will notice and report back." She pulled her hood up. "Turns out running away doesn't actually solve anything. You just take your problems with you. You could still disappear, change names again. Victor doesn't know who you really are. He will after tomorrow. You think his lawyers won't investigate every person in that diner? They'll find Maya's employment records, run her ID, and discover she's Richard Vaughn's missing daughter. Then it becomes a story about a runaway heiress playing waitress who got caught in a bar fight. The media will eat it up, my father will send an army to retrieve me, and Victor will use all of it to make you look like you manipulated some confused rich girl into lying for you." "So why stay?" Lena looked at him. "Because for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that matters. Not my father's money, not my family's reputation. Me, making a choice that counts. Even if it all falls apart, at least I tried. That's more than I've ever done before." She left him there in the empty warehouse, her taillights disappearing into the sleet. Ethan stood in the loading dock watching the city lights blur through precipitation. His phone buzzed. "Sarah, Emma keeps asking about you. I don't know what to tell her anymore." He stared at the message, trying to think of what to say that wasn't empty or dishonest or cruel. Finally typed, "Tell her I love her and I'm trying to fix things. Sarah, she's 7. She doesn't want you to fix things. She wants you to be there. Sarah, the custody hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from tomorrow. My lawyer says with everything going on, it'll be quick. I'm sorry, Ethan, but I have to protect her." He didn't respond. What was there to say? She was right. Emma needed stability and safety, and right now he was neither of those things. He was a man whose life had become a cautionary tale, who'd traded his family's security for a principle that nobody cared about except him. The drive home was a blur. He passed the diner where this had all started, saw lights on inside, Mel probably working late. Kept driving. Passed Sarah's apartment complex, saw Emma's bedroom window glowing warm. Kept driving. Ended up at his own place, where the eviction notice stared at him and the silence pressed down like a weight. He made it to bed around 2 a.m. and dreamed of courtrooms where judges wore Victor's face and pronounced sentences in Sarah's voice, while Emma watched from a gallery that stretched into infinity. Monday morning arrived too fast. Ethan put on his only suit, the same one he'd worn to his father's funeral 3 years ago, slightly too big now from weight he'd lost without noticing. He met Beth outside the courthouse at 8:30. She looked wired on coffee and stress. "I'm not going to lie to you," she said. "This is going to be ugly." Victor's team filed a supplemental brief this morning with additional evidence. They've got more security footage, cell tower data that supposedly puts you near his office, and affidavits from 3 more witnesses who claim you've been stalking him. All fake. Probably. But proving that in a hearing that'll last maybe an hour? We don't have time or resources. Our strategy is to present you as credible, Victor as a serial abuser, and hope the judge sees enough doubt to deny the order. You said our chances were 40-60. That was before the supplemental filing. Now I'd say 30-70. maybe worse. They went inside. The courthouse was beautiful in a cold way. Marble floors and high ceilings, and the kind of architecture designed to make people feel small. They passed through security and rode an elevator to the fourth floor where family court handled protective orders. Victor was already there with his legal team. 4 lawyers in suits that probably cost more than Ethan's truck, all of them looking confident and bored. Victor himself wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, his hair styled, his expression one of dignified concern. He looked like a man who'd been victimized and was reluctantly seeking protection. When he saw Ethan, his face flickered with something ugly, then smoothed back into neutral concern. One of his lawyers whispered something, and he nodded gravely. "All rise." The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and the kind of face that suggested she'd seen every con and hustle human beings could devise. Judge Patricia Hendricks, according to the nameplate on her bench. She settled into her chair and reviewed the file. "We're here on an emergency petition for a protective order, Victor Hale petitioner, Ethan Cole respondent. Mr. Marsh, you're representing the petitioner?" Robert Marsh stood, the same lawyer who'd called Ethan with the settlement offer. "Yes, Your Honor, we're seeking a protective order based on multiple incidents of harassment, stalking, and threats against Mr. Hale. We have substantial evidence, including security footage, witness testimony, and a documented pattern of escalating behavior." "Ms. Harmon, you're representing Mr. Cole?" Beth stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We're here to oppose this petition on the grounds that it's retaliatory and based on fabricated evidence. Mr. Cole hasn't harassed or threatened anyone. He intervened in an assault and is now being punished for it." Judge Hendricks looked between them. "This is a preliminary hearing, not a trial. I'm here to determine if there's sufficient cause to grant temporary protection while we sort out the underlying facts. Mr. Marsh, present your evidence." Marsh pulled out a laptop and queued up security footage. The screen showed a lobby, timestamped from Thursday afternoon. A man entered wearing a baseball cap and jacket, approached the desk, had what looked like an animated conversation with security, then left after being escorted out. "This is Mr. Cole at the Riverside Financial Building, where Mr. Hale maintains offices, on Thursday at 4:07 p.m. He demanded to see Mr. Hale, and when refused, stated, according to 2 security guards, 'Tell him Ethan Cole is here to finish what we started.' We have sworn affidavits from both guards." Beth stood. "Your Honor, that footage is too grainy to make a positive identification. There's no clear shot of the man's face." "We also have cell tower data." Marsh produced another document. "Mr. Cole's phone was in the vicinity of the building at the time of this incident. The location data is consistent with him being in that lobby." "May I see that data?" Beth asked. Marsh handed over copies. Beth scanned them quickly, her expression tightening. Ethan could see the problem. The tower data did show his phone near the financial district Thursday afternoon, because he'd driven past it on his way to the park. Not stopping, not going inside, just passing through the area. But the data didn't show movement, just location. Judge Hendricks reviewed the documents. "Ms. Harmon? Response?" "The cell tower data only shows Mr. Cole's phone was in the general area, not that he entered the building. And the security footage could be anyone. Without facial recognition analysis, we have witness identification," Marsh interrupted. "Both guards positively identified Mr. Cole from a photo array." A photo array they were probably shown by Mr. Hale's investigators, who had every reason to influence their testimony. Beth shot back. "That's speculation," Marsh said smoothly. "What's not speculation is the original incident at Mel's Diner, where Mr. Cole physically threatened my client in front of multiple witnesses. We have Deputy Morrison's report, which confirms Mr. Cole confronted Mr. Hale aggressively." "Because Mr. Hale was assaulting a waitress," Beth said. The same report states, "It states there was a confrontation that Mr. Cole initiated. Everything since then, the stalking, the threats, the continued harassment, is a pattern of escalating behavior from a man who has admitted to being unemployed, going through a divorce, and experiencing financial hardship. Classic risk factors for violence." Judge Hendricks held up a hand. "Let's stay focused. Mr. Marsh, beyond the diner incident and the alleged building visit, what other evidence of harassment do you have?" "We have multiple reports of Mr. Cole driving past Mr. Hale's residence late at night. Neighbors have documented his truck on 3 separate occasions." Ethan leaned toward Beth.
I've never been to his house. I don't even know where he lives. Beth whispered back. They're making it up, but we can't prove a negative, Marsh continued. We also have phone records showing Mr. Cole called Mr. Hale's office 17 times over the past week, often hanging up when someone answered. I never called him, Ethan said quietly. Spoofed numbers, Beth whispered. Someone using your number to make calls. We'd need a forensic analyst to prove it. Judge Hendricks looked at Beth. Ms. Harmon, do you have evidence contradicting any of these claims? We have testimony from Deputy Morrison that Mr. Hale was the aggressor in the initial incident. We have a statement from the diner cook confirming the same. We have Mr. Cole's assertion that he wasn't at the financial building and has never been to Mr. Hale's residence. And we have reason to believe Mr. Hale is fabricating this harassment as retaliation for Mr. Cole refusing to sign a settlement agreement. Do you have proof of fabrication? Beth hesitated. Not yet, Your Honor, but we're gathering evidence of a pattern of abusive behavior by Mr. Hale that includes, this hearing is about whether Mr. Cole poses a threat to Mr. Hale, not the other way around. Judge Hendricks' tone was firm. If you want to present evidence of Mr.
Hale's character, that's for the civil trial. Right now, I'm looking at substantial documentation suggesting your client has engaged in stalking and harassment. The standard for a protective order is low. I just need to find reasonable cause, and based on what I'm seeing, there's more than enough. Ethan felt the floor drop out. Beth tried again. Your Honor, if you grant this order, Mr. Cole loses access to potential witnesses for his defense in the civil case. The diner where the original incident occurred is owned by property managed by Mr. Hale. The people who were present that night could all fall under the protective radius. This isn't about safety, it's about silencing opposition. That's a strategic concern, not a legal one, Judge Hendricks said. Mr. Cole can depose those witnesses through proper legal channels. He doesn't need physical access to them. But Your Honor, Ms. Harmon, I appreciate your advocacy, but my job is to err on the side of caution when someone's safety might be at risk. The evidence before me suggests Mr. Cole has engaged in behavior that justifies protection. I'm granting a temporary restraining order effective immediately. Mr. Cole is to stay at least 500 feet from Mr. Hale, his residences, his places of business, and anyone acting on his behalf. This includes the Riverside Financial Building, Mr. Hale's home, and, she checked the file, Mel's Diner on Route 9. The order remains in effect for 30 days, at which point we'll have a full hearing to determine if it should be extended. The gavel came down. Just like that, it was over. Marsh stood. Thank you, Your Honor. We'll also be requesting Mr. Cole surrender any firearms and submit to a psychological evaluation. Noted. Ms. Harmon, you'll receive the formal order within 24 hours. Mr. Cole, do you understand the terms of this order? Ethan stood slowly. Yes. Violating it is a criminal offense. If you come within 500 feet of Mr. Hale or any of the specified locations, you'll be arrested. Do you understand? I understand. Good. We're adjourned. She left. Victor's legal team packed up, all of them looking satisfied. Victor himself walked past Ethan without looking at him, but his smile said everything. Outside the courtroom, Marsh approached. The settlement offer still stands, Mr. Cole. $25,000 in a signed statement. After today, I think you'd see the wisdom in taking it. Go to hell, Ethan said. Marsh shrugged. Your choice. But you just lost access to your main witnesses, and now you're on record as a stalker. The civil case just got a lot easier for us. Think about that before pride costs you everything else. He walked away. Beth pulled Ethan aside, her expression grim. I'm sorry. I really thought we had a shot. It's fine. It's not fine. This is exactly what Victor wanted. He's isolated you from potential allies, made you look unstable, and put you at legal risk. If you violate this order even accidentally, he'll have you arrested. So what now? Now we regroup. We've still got Denise and Rachel willing to testify about Victor's pattern. We've got the original deputy's report. We build the civil case and hope we can get in front of a jury that'll see through Victor's performance. She paused. But, Ethan, I have to be honest. After today, our chances of winning dropped significantly. Juries trust judges. If Hendricks thought you were dangerous enough to need a restraining order,
A jury's going to have a hard time seeing you as the victim. Ethan's phone buzzed. Text from the burner number. I saw the ruling. I'm sorry. Meet me tonight. Same place, 9 p.m. We're not done yet. He showed Beth the message. She frowned. Who is this? The waitress, Lena. She's been helping behind the scenes. The one who's actually a billionaire's daughter. Yeah. Ethan, if her identity comes out, Victor's lawyers will destroy her credibility. They'll paint this whole thing as some bored rich girl playing games with people's lives. We can't afford that. She's risking everything to help. I know, but we need to be smart about how we use her testimony. If she gets exposed before we're ready, we lose our best witness to character assassination. Beth checked her watch. I've got another client in an hour. Go home. Stay away from Victor and anywhere he might be. Don't give him ammunition. And for the love of everything, don't do anything stupid. Ethan drove home in a daze. The restraining order meant he couldn't go back to the diner, couldn't talk to the cook or any of the staff who'd witnessed what really happened. Victor had effectively erased half of his defense with a single hearing. His apartment felt like a cell. He sat at the kitchen table and opened his laptop, searching for his own name. The news had already updated. Judge grants restraining order against man who threatened Victor Hale. Ethan Cole, ruled dangerous, must stay away from prominent businessman. Former Marine deemed threat after stalking incidents. Every article framed it the same way. Victor as victim, Ethan as unstable aggressor. The comment sections were worse. People who'd never met him diagnosing his mental health, calling for his arrest, saying he deserved whatever happened next. His phone rang. Sarah. I saw the news. Her voice was cold. A restraining order, Ethan? Really? It's not what it looks like. It never is with you. But here's what it looks like to me. You're spiraling. You're losing control. And I will not let my daughter be anywhere near that. My lawyer's filing an emergency motion to suspend your visitation pending the custody hearing. As of right now, you don't see Emma until a judge says you can. Sarah, please. I'm done, Ethan. I'm done making excuses for you, done hoping you'll change, done letting you hurt our daughter every time you choose your pride over her stability. You want to fight the whole world? Fine. Do it alone. She hung up before he could respond. Ethan sat there holding a dead phone, feeling the last threads connecting him to his old life snap one by one. The eviction notice on his door said he had 3 days now. The restraining order said he couldn't work anywhere Victor had influence, which was most of the city. The custody motion said he couldn't see his daughter. The math was simple and brutal. He had nothing left to lose. At 9 p.m., he drove back to the warehouse. Lena was waiting in the same office, but she wasn't alone. 3 more women sat with her, all of them looking terrified and determined in equal measure. I found more, Lena said. 5 total now, all willing to testify. All of them were assaulted by Victor, all of them paid off with NDAs, all of them ready to break their silence. One of the women stood. She was older, maybe 50, with gray streaking her dark hair. My name is Patricia. Victor Hale assaulted me 9 years ago when I was catering an event at one of his properties. He cornered me in a kitchen and put his hands on me. When I fought back, he had me fired and blacklisted from every catering company in the city. His lawyer showed up a week later with $300,000 and an NDA that said if I ever spoke about what happened, I'd lose the money and face criminal charges for slander. I signed it because I had a mortgage and 2 kids in college, but I've regretted it every day since. The other women shared similar stories: assaults, threats, settlements, silence. By the time they finished, Ethan understood the scope of what Victor had built. Not just power and money, but a system designed to let him hurt people without consequences. Every NDA, every settlement, every threatened lawsuit was a brick in a wall that protected him from accountability. This is enough, Beth said. She'd arrived halfway through, summoned by Lena. This establishes a clear pattern of predatory behavior. If we can get this in front of a jury, we won't, Patricia interrupted. The NDAs prohibit us from testifying. Victor's lawyers will get any testimony excluded before trial even starts. Not if we argue the NDAs are void as against public policy, Beth countered. Contracts that enable ongoing criminal behavior aren't enforceable. We argue Victor used these agreements to facilitate a continuing pattern of assault, and the court should invalidate them. That's never worked before, Denise said. Rich men like Victor don't lose in court. They win because they can afford to keep fighting until everyone else runs out of money or hope or both. Then we don't fight in court, Lena said quietly. We fight in public. Everyone looked at her. Victor's power comes from staying hidden, Lena continued, from keeping his victims separated and silent. But what if we all came forward at once? What if we held a press conference and told our stories together? Diaz be damned. He can't sue all of us fast enough to stop the story from spreading. And once it's out there, once people see the pattern, the court case becomes secondary. Public opinion shifts, sponsors pull support, business partners distance themselves. He loses his power before the trial even starts. He'll destroy us financially, Rachel said. The NDA penalties alone would bankrupt most of us. Not if my father's lawyers defend you, Lena said. Once my identity comes out, and it will once we go public, Richard Vaughn will have no choice but to back me or let his daughter get crushed by Victor Hale. My father's a lot of things, but he's not going to sit by while someone comes after his family. He'll assign his legal team to defend all of you against the NDA violations. You'd expose yourself like that? Patricia asked. Walk away from your hiding place? I'm not hiding anymore. I'm done watching from the sidelines while other people fight battles I should be part of. Lena looked at Ethan. You stood up when nobody else would. The least I can do is stand with you when it matters. Beth shook her head. This is risky. If we go public before the trial, Victor's lawyers will claim we're tainting the jury pool. They could get the whole case thrown out. And if we wait for trial, we lose anyway, Denise said. At least this way we control the narrative. We tell our stories in our own words before Victor's lawyers can twist them. The women looked at each other, having a silent conversation. Finally, Patricia nodded. I'm in. I've been quiet for 9 years. Time to speak up. One by one, the others agreed. 5 women willing to violate their NDAs, risk financial ruin, face Victor's wrath, all because someone had finally given them permission to stop being afraid. We'll need a venue, Beth said, already planning. Somewhere public, lots of cameras, and we need to coordinate this carefully so Victor can't shut it down before we start. I know a place, Lena said. There's a tech conference this Friday at the convention center, the Innovate Summit. It's a huge industry event. Media from everywhere, live streaming, thousands of attendees. Victor's giving the keynote address about ethical business practices. She smiled grimly. I think we should offer him a chance to demonstrate those ethics in real time. The next 4 days passed in a blur of planning and preparation. Beth worked the legal angles, drafting statements that walked the line between defamation and truth. The 5 women rehearsed their stories, supporting each other through panic attacks and second thoughts. Lena coordinated logistics with the precision of someone who'd grown up around corporate events and understood exactly how to exploit them. Ethan felt like a spectator in his own life. His role was simple: show up and be the face that connected all these pieces. The man who'd started it all by refusing to look away. Wednesday morning, his landlord showed up with an eviction crew. Ethan had packed what mattered into his truck the night before: clothes, Emma's drawings, a photo album Sarah had left behind in the divorce. Everything else got thrown into garbage bags and hauled to the curb. 13 years of accumulated life reduced to trash in under 2 hours. He slept in the truck that night, parked behind a Walmart where security didn't hassle overnight campers. The seat didn't recline enough and cold seeped through the doors, but he'd slept in worse places. Afghanistan had taught him how to find rest anywhere. This was just another kind of war zone. Thursday, Beth called with bad news delivered in her matter-of-fact way. The DA filed criminal charges. 2 counts of stalking, 1 count of making terroristic threats, 1 count of violating a restraining order that hadn't even been issued yet. They're being creative. Arraignment is set for next Tuesday. Ethan was sitting in a McDonald's parking lot using their Wi-Fi to search for day labor jobs. Violating a restraining order before it existed? They're claiming you went near Victor's building after the protective order hearing, but before you'd been officially served with the paperwork. It's a stretch, but they're throwing everything at you to see what sticks. If convicted on all counts, you're looking at up to 5 years. 5 years. Emma would be 12 when he got out. She wouldn't remember him except as the father who went to prison for fighting someone she'd never met over something she didn't understand. What do we do? We stick to the plan. The press conference Friday changes everything. Once those women go public, Once the pattern of abuse is documented, the DA's case starts looking like retaliation instead of justice. They might drop charges or offer a plea to something minor, but we need Friday to work. Friday, the Innovate Summit. Victor Hale giving his keynote on ethical business practices while 5 women waited to tell the world exactly how ethical he really was. What if it doesn't work? Ethan asked. What if nobody cares? Beth was quiet for a moment. Then we're probably done. Victor wins, you go to prison, and those women get crushed by NDA penalties. But we're past the point of safe plays. This is our last shot. After she hung up, Ethan sat watching people come and go from the McDonald's. Families with screaming kids, teenagers on dates, old men nursing coffee and reading newspapers. Normal people living normal lives where the worst problem was traffic, or a difficult boss, or a kid who wouldn't do their homework. He'd had that once. A wife, a daughter, an apartment that wasn't much but was home. He'd thrown it away for what? Pride? Principle? The conviction that someone needed to stand up? His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, but not the burner Lena used. Mr. Cole, this is Richard Vaughn. I understand you've been in contact with my daughter. We need to talk. Ethan stared at the message. Lena's father. The billionaire tech mogul who she'd spent 6 months hiding from. He typed back, How did you get this number? I have considerable resources, and I've been tracking Lena since she disappeared. I know what she's planning for Friday, and I know you're involved. Meet me tonight, 7 p.m. The observation deck at Heritage Tower. Come alone. Why would I do that? Because in 48 hours, my daughter is going to destroy her reputation and possibly her future to help you. I'd like to understand why she thinks you're worth it, and because I might be able to help you in ways she can't. Ethan showed the message to Lena when they met that afternoon at the warehouse. She read it, and her face went pale. He knows. Of course he knows. He probably had people tracking me the whole time, just waiting to see what I'd do. Should I meet him? I don't know. My father's complicated. He'll try to manipulate you, offer you things, make deals. He sees everything as a transaction. But he's also powerful enough to make Victor's life difficult if he chooses to. Would he help? Lena laughed bitterly. That depends entirely on whether he thinks it benefits him. If helping you means protecting his daughter's reputation, maybe. If it means going against someone he has business connections with, probably not. My father doesn't have principles. He has interests. Sounds familiar. Victor wishes he was my father. Victor's just rich. My father's the guy who decides who gets to be rich. She looked at Ethan. If you meet him, be careful. He'll seem reasonable, charming even. But everything he says is calculated. And if he can't buy you, he'll try to bury you. Ethan went anyway. The Heritage Tower was downtown, a glass needle piercing the skyline. The observation deck on the 45th floor offered 360 views of the city, and this late in the evening, it was nearly empty. Richard Vaughn stood at the western windows, hands in his pockets, looking at the sunset. He was in his 60s but fit, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than Ethan's truck. When Ethan approached, he turned and extended a hand. Mr. Cole, thank you for coming. I'm Richard. They shook. Vaughn's grip was firm but not aggressive, the handshake of someone who'd learned to read people through touch. Your daughter said you'd try to manipulate me. Vaughn smiled. She knows me well. Did she also tell you I love her more than anything in the world and have spent 6 months respecting her need for space, even though it's been killing me? No. I thought not. Lena sees me as the villain in her story, the rich father who tried to control her life. There's truth in that. I pushed her toward careers she didn't want, introduced her to people she despised, built expectations she couldn't meet. I made mistakes. But I did it because I wanted to protect her from a world that's much crueler than she realized. She seems to have figured out the cruel part on her own. Because of you. Because she saw you stand up to Victor Hale and decided that was what courage looked like. Vaughn turned back to the window. Do you know what Victor is? A predator with money. He's worse than that. He's a symptom. Men like Victor exist because the system enables them. Money buys lawyers. Lawyers buy silence. Silence buys impunity. I know because I'm part of that system. I've used it myself when convenient. The difference between Victor and me is that I know it's corrupt and I feel appropriately guilty.
He thinks it's his birthright. Why are you telling me this? Because tomorrow, my daughter is going to stand in front of cameras and destroy the life she's built to help you take down Victor Hale. And I need to know if you're worth it.
Ethan looked at him. I'm not. I'm broke, homeless, facing prison time. I've lost my family, my career, everything that mattered. Your daughter deserves better than getting dragged into my mess. And yet she chose you anyway. Why do you think that is? Because she's braver than me. Vaughn nodded slowly. Lena spent her entire childhood watching powerful men do terrible things and get away with it because nobody had the courage to stop them. She saw me make deals with people I despised because it was profitable. She watched her mother smile through dinners with men who degraded her. She learned that money meant never facing consequences, and it disgusted her. So when she saw you, some random stranger, risk everything to protect someone you didn't even know, it broke something open in her. It showed her that courage actually exists outside of movies and speeches. That was dangerous for me, because it meant she might actually find the courage to walk away from the life I'd built for her. She did walk away. For 6 months, she served coffee and lived in a tiny apartment and thought she'd escaped. But you can't escape yourself. She was still my daughter, still raised in privilege, still carrying the weight of knowing she'd never had to fight for anything real. Then Victor grabbed her and you stepped in, and suddenly she had a chance to fight for something. To be someone other than Richard Vaughn's disappointing daughter. Vaughn pulled out his phone and showed Ethan a photo. Lena, maybe 16, in an evening gown at some formal event. She looked miserable despite the smile. This is who she was, performing a role she hated because she thought she had to. You gave her permission to stop performing. That's why she's risking everything tomorrow. Not for you, for herself. So she can finally be the person she wants to be instead of the person I made her. Then why are you here? To talk me out of it? No. To make sure you understand what you're asking her to sacrifice. Once she steps in front of those cameras, she can't take it back. The media will tear her apart. My competitors will use it against me. Her mother will be humiliated. And Victor's lawyers will paint her as a spoiled rich girl playing revolution. She'll lose her anonymity, her peace, possibly her relationship with her family. All to help you. I never asked her. You didn't have to. You existed. You showed her there was another way. That's enough. Vaughn looked at him directly. So here's what I need from you. When this is over, if you survive it, don't disappear on her. Don't take what she's giving you and then walk away because you feel guilty or unworthy or whatever nobility complex drives men like you. She needs to know that her sacrifice mattered, that you're worth what she's about to lose. I can't promise her anything. I don't even have a future to promise. Then build one. Use the platform this gives you. Tell your story. Help other people trapped by men like Victor. Turn this into something bigger than just surviving. Give Lena a reason to believe she chose right. Vaughn pulled out an envelope and handed it to Ethan. Inside was a check for $50,000. I don't want your money. It's not mine. It's Lena's. From a trust fund she can't access until she's 30. I'm her trustee, which means I can make distributions for her welfare. Consider this her investment in your future. Use it to get back on your feet, pay your lawyer, find a place to live, fix whatever needs fixing. But don't you dare waste it on pride. Ethan held the check, feeling its weight. $50,000 would solve every immediate problem. Rent, legal fees, child support, the truck payment. It would buy him breathing room to rebuild. It would also make him dependent on Lena's father, which felt like a trap. There's no strings attached, Vaughn said, reading his expression. I'm not buying your loyalty or silence. I'm investing in my daughter's happiness. If you matter to her, then you matter to me. Simple as that. Nothing's simple with people like you. True, but occasionally we do decent things for selfish reasons. I want my daughter back in my life. If helping you is how I prove I'm not the villain she thinks I am, then that's what I'll do. He walked toward the elevator, then paused. Tomorrow, when those women go public, Victor will try to shut it down. He'll have lawyers, security, political connections, all working to kill the story before it spreads. You'll need someone with equal resources backing you. Consider me that someone. Why would you go against Victor? You said yourself you make deals with people you despise. Victor's a competitor who's been moving into my territory. Destroying him is good business. The fact that it also helps my daughter is just efficient multitasking. He smiled. See? Selfish reasons. But the outcome is what matters, not the motivation. The elevator doors closed and he was gone. Ethan stood alone on the observation deck, holding a check for more money than he'd seen in years, trying to figure out if he'd just been helped or manipulated. With people like Richard Vaughn, it was probably both. He called Lena from the parking garage. "Did you meet with him?" "Yeah." "And? Did he try to buy you off?" "He gave me $50,000. Silence. Then, "I'm going to kill him. That manipulative, controlling, he can't just throw money at my problems and expect—" "Lena, breathe." "He does this. He finds what people need and he gives it to them so they owe him. That's how he operates. Every gift is a transaction. Every favor is a debt. He said it was your money. From a trust fund." That stopped her. "He accessed my trust? That's supposed to be locked until I'm 30. He said he's your trustee and can make distributions for your welfare." "My welfare, right, because he gets to decide what that means." She was quiet for a moment. "Are you going to take it?" "I don't know. Feels like accepting means I'm part of his game." "Everything's part of his game, Ethan. The question is whether the game gets you something you need. Do you need that money?" He thought about the truck he'd been sleeping in, the legal fees piling up, Sarah's lawyer arguing he was too unstable and broke to see his own daughter. "Yeah, I need it." "Then take it. Use it. My father can afford it, and if it helps you survive what's coming tomorrow, then it's worth it. Just don't let him make you feel like you owe him something. That's how he controls people." "He said he wants to help tomorrow. Said Victor will try to shut us down and we'll need someone with resources backing us." "He's probably right. Victor has connections everywhere. If my father's willing to use his own connections to counter that, we should let him, even if his motivations are selfish. He said he wants you back in his life." Lena laughed softly. "Of course he does, but on his terms, with me grateful and compliant. That's the part he doesn't get. I don't want back into that life. I want to build my own, and tomorrow's the first step." They talked through final preparations. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m., right after Victor's keynote address. Lena had coordinated with a journalist friend who'd ensure cameras were positioned correctly. Beth had drafted statements for all 5 women, legally vetted to avoid defamation claims. Everything was ready. "Are you scared?" Ethan asked. "Terrified. I've never done anything this public. Once I step in front of those cameras, I can't hide anymore. Everyone will know who I am, where I've been, what I've done. My whole life becomes public consumption." "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do. Not for you, for me. Because I'm tired of hiding, tired of being afraid, tired of watching other people fight battles while I stay safe on the sidelines. Tomorrow I get to be someone I can respect. That's worth the fear." After they hung up, Ethan sat in the truck and deposited the check using his phone. The balance jumped from $87 to $50,087. He stared at the number, feeling something unclench in his chest. He could fix things now. Not everything. Emma was still lost to him until the custody hearing, and the criminal charges still loomed, but he could stop hemorrhaging, could get ahead of the bills and the eviction and the desperate scrambling, could breathe. He booked a cheap hotel room for the night. The bed was lumpy and the walls were thin, but it was warm and dry, and he slept better than he had in days. Friday morning arrived clear and cold. Ethan met Beth at her office at 8 a.m. She looked like she'd been up all night, running on coffee and determination. "The women are ready. I've got statements prepared, legal grounds to argue the NDAs are void, and a backup plan if Victor's lawyers try to shut us down mid-conference. Lena's coordinating with security to make sure we can access the press room. And I've got 3 different media outlets guaranteed to cover the story even if the official conference feed gets cut." Richard Vaughn said he'd help, said Victor will try to kill the story. He probably will. But if Vaughn's backing us, that changes the math. 2 billionaires fighting means media coverage regardless of who wins. The story becomes the conflict itself. She looked at Ethan seriously. "You ready for this? Once we go public, there's no taking it back. Your face will be everywhere. The story will define you. I lost everything else. Might as well lose my anonymity, too." They drove to the convention center separately, planning to meet inside. The Innovate Summit was already in full swing. Thousands of attendees in business casual, vendor booths hawking software and services, panels discussing disruption and innovation. the kind of event where people spoke in buzzwords and everyone was networking. Victor's keynote was scheduled for noon in the main ballroom. Ethan watched from the back as the room filled with maybe 2,000 people, all of them there to hear a predator talk about ethics. Victor took the stage to applause, looking polished and confident. He wore a charcoal suit and spoke without notes, his voice carrying that casual authority rich men developed. Thank you all for being here. When the organizers asked me to speak about ethical business practices, I'll admit I hesitated. Ethics can seem abstract, something we talk about in theory but struggle to implement in practice. But I believe ethics isn't just about following rules. It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences, that power carries responsibility, and that true success is measured not just in profit, but in how we treat the people around us. Ethan felt his jaw tighten. Victor was good at this, convincing. He spoke about transparency and accountability, about building businesses that valued people over pure profit. He told heartwarming stories about employees he'd helped, communities he'd invested in. The audience ate it up. In the end, Victor concluded, ethical business is simple. Treat people with dignity, take responsibility for your impact, and never forget that wealth is a tool for building better communities, not just bigger bank accounts. Thank you. Standing ovation. People loved him. Ethan watched them clap and realized how easy it was to perform morality. Say the right words, tell the right stories, and nobody questioned whether you lived up to any of it. Victor left the stage and the crowd dispersed toward lunch. Ethan made his way to the press room where Beth and the 5 women waited. Lena was there too, looking nervous and determined in equal measure. He's good, Denise said quietly. I almost believed him myself. That's the problem, Patricia said. Men like Victor are always good at this. That's why they get away with it. At 1:30, Lena's journalist friend arrived, a woman in her 40s named Kelly Chen, who worked for a major national outlet. She helped them set up the room, positioning chairs in front of a backdrop, checking sound levels, coordinating with camera operators from 3 different networks. We go live at 2, Kelly said. I'll introduce you, explain the context, then each of you speaks. Keep it factual, keep it clean. The more clinical you are, the harder it is for Hale's lawyers to claim defamation. Tell what happened, when it happened, what he offered you to stay quiet. Let the facts speak. What if his people try to shut us down? Rachel asked. They'll try, but we've got backup streams to social media. Even if they cut the official feed, the story gets out. That's the beauty of the internet. You can't kill information once it's loose. At 1:50, Ethan's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You're making a mistake. Last chance to walk away. No signature. Didn't need one. Victor knew what was coming. At 2 p.m. exactly, Kelly started the press conference. She stood in front of the cameras and introduced the topic with journalistic precision. We're here today because 5 women have come forward with allegations against Victor Hale, the prominent investor who just delivered a keynote address on ethical business practices. These women allege a pattern of sexual assault, harassment, and using financial power to silence victims. They're speaking today despite legal agreements designed to keep them quiet. This is their story. Patricia went first. She told her story calmly, without embellishment. The assault, the blacklisting, the settlement, the 9 years of silence. When she finished, Denise spoke. Then Rachel. Then the 2 others, each account eerily similar. Powerful man, vulnerable woman, violence followed by money followed by enforced silence. By the time they finished, the press room was silent except for camera shutters. Reporters scribbled notes. Producers whispered into phones. The story was out there, spreading in real time. Then Lena stood up. My name is Lena Vaughn. I'm the daughter of Richard Vaughn, CEO of Vaughn Technologies. For the past 6 months, I've been working as a waitress at Mel's Diner under the name Maya. I did this because I wanted to live a normal life away from privilege and pretense. 2 weeks ago, Victor Hale came into that diner and grabbed me inappropriately. When I asked him to stop, he refused. A customer named Ethan Cole intervened and made him let go. Since then, Mr. Hale has used his wealth and influence to destroy Mr. Cole's life, costing him his job, his home, his relationship with his daughter. He's fabricated evidence of stalking, gotten a restraining order, and filed criminal charges. All because Mr. Cole had the courage to stand up when nobody else would. She paused, looking directly at the camera. I'm here today to say that I saw what happened. Victor Hale was the aggressor. Ethan Cole was defending me. And everything that's happened since is retaliation designed to punish someone for refusing to be silent. These 5 women represent a pattern. Victor Hale is a predator who's used money to avoid consequences. That ends today. The room erupted, reporters shouting questions, cameras surging forward, Kelly trying to maintain order. Through the chaos, Ethan saw security pushing toward the front, 2 men in suits, clearly sent to shut this down. But Richard Vaughn was faster. He appeared from a side entrance with his own security team, positioning themselves between the guards and the speakers. One of Victor's men tried to push through anyway and got blocked by Vaughn's people. "This is a private press conference," Vaughn said calmly. "These women have every right to speak. If Mr. Hale has concerns about defamation, he can address them through proper legal channels, but he will not silence them with intimidation." Victor's security backed off, making calls on radios. In the confusion, Kelly got control back. "We're taking questions. Keep them brief." A reporter from the Post stood. "Ms. Vaughn, you're alleging your father knew about this and approved the press conference?" "My father is here supporting my right to speak. Beyond that, you'll have to ask him." Another reporter. "Mr. Cole, you're facing criminal charges for stalking Mr. Hale. How do you respond to accusations you're using these women to deflect from your own behavior?" Ethan stood. He hadn't planned to speak, but the question demanded an answer. "I'm not using anyone. I stepped between a man and a woman he was hurting. Everything since then has been Victor Hale using his power to punish me for it. These women came forward on their own because they're brave enough to break silence that's kept them trapped for years. I'm just the guy who wouldn't look away when it mattered." More questions, more chaos. Kelly managed it well, keeping things focused on the allegations rather than the spectacle. But Ethan could see Victor's team regrouping, making more calls, plotting their counterattack. 20 minutes in, the convention center's head of security appeared. "This conference is over. You're disrupting the event, and we're going to have to ask you to leave." "On whose authority?" Vaughn asked. "The event organizers and Mr. Hale's legal team. This is a private venue, and you don't have permission to be here. We rented this press room through proper channels. We have every right to be here." The security chief hesitated, clearly getting instructions through his earpiece. Finally, "You have 10 minutes, then I'm clearing the room." Kelly jumped back in. "Final questions." A reporter from CNN. "What do you want to happen as a result of this press conference?" Patricia answered. "We want Victor Hale held accountable. We want the NDAs declared void so other women can speak without fear. We want the legal system to recognize that rich men don't get to buy their way out of consequences for violence. And we want other victims to know they're not alone." "And Mr. Cole?" the reporter asked. "What do you want?" Ethan looked at the cameras, thinking about Emma watching this someday, trying to understand why her father had chosen this fight. "I want my daughter to grow up in a world where powerful people don't get away with hurting others just because they can afford good lawyers. I want her to know that standing up matters, even when it costs everything. And I want Victor Hale to understand that money doesn't make you untouchable. It just makes you accountable to more people when you fall." The security chief started moving people toward the exits. Kelly wrapped up quickly, thanking everyone for coming, promising follow-up coverage. As the crowd dispersed, Ethan saw Robert Marsh forcing his way through, his face red with anger. "This is defamation. Every word they spoke is actionable. My client will be filing suit against all of you, plus criminal complaints for violating court orders." "Your client is welcome to try," Richard Vaughn interrupted, "but he'll be facing my legal team, not some overworked public defender. And I assure you, Mr. Marsh, we're very good at what we do." Marsh looked at Vaughn, recognition dawning. "You're backing this circus?" "I'm backing my daughter. If that puts me in opposition to your client, so be it." "You're making a mistake. Victor Hale has connections. So do I. Shall we compare lists?" Vaughn smiled coldly. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have reporters to speak with." He guided Lena toward a cluster of journalists. Beth pulled Ethan aside. That went better than expected. The story's already trending on social media. 3 major outlets are running it. Victor's team is scrambling to respond, but the damage is done. Public opinion shifted the second Lena revealed who she was. What happens now? Now we wait. Victor will try to discredit everyone, claim it's a conspiracy, throw money at making it disappear. But with Vaughn backing us and multiple women telling consistent stories, he's fighting an uphill battle. The DA might even reconsider the charges against you once public sentiment turns. Might? It's better odds than we had yesterday. Beth checked her phone. I've got 6 interview requests already. We need to stay on message. Victor's the predator, you're the witness, these women are the victims. Don't let reporters twist it into anything else. Ethan spent the next hour giving interviews, telling the same story over and over. Yes, he intervened. No, he didn't expect this response. Yes, he'd do it again. The reporters ate it up, the struggling veteran standing up to a billionaire made for good television. By 5 p.m., his phone was dead from notifications. The story had gone national. Hashtag Victor Hale was trending. News sites ran headlines like billionaire investor accused of assault pattern, and 5 women break silence on Hale allegations. Victor's team responded with a statement calling the allegations a coordinated attack by disgruntled individuals seeking financial gain and promising aggressive legal action against all parties involved. But the statement felt hollow, defensive. The narrative had already shifted. Ethan found Lena outside the convention center, sitting on a bench away from the chaos. She looked exhausted and exhilarated and terrified. You okay? I just exposed my entire life to the world. My father's here playing White Knight, my face is on every news site, and my phone won't stop ringing. So no, not really okay. But also kind of okay? Does that make sense? Yeah. I can't go back to the diner. Can't hide anymore. Everything's different now. Regret it? She thought about that. Ask me tomorrow when Victor's lawyers start filing lawsuits. But right now? No, I stood up. I spoke. I mattered. That's worth whatever comes next. Richard Vaughn approached, trailed by security. Lena, we should talk. She stood, and for a moment Ethan saw the scared kid she must have been once, facing a father who'd shaped her whole world. Then she straightened her shoulders. Yeah, we should, but not here, and not on your terms. I'll call you. Lena, I'm not running away, Dad, but I'm not running back either. I'll call you. She turned to Ethan. You need a place to stay? I've got a hotel room with 2 beds and I could use the company. Just someone who gets it. Yeah, that'd be good. They left Vaughn standing there, looking like a man who'd won the battle but wasn't sure about the war. In the parking garage, Lena's hands shook as she unlocked her car. That was my father. Did you see him? Acting like he orchestrated this whole thing, like he's the hero. He helped. I know. That's what makes it complicated. He helps when it benefits him, and right now protecting me benefits him. But what happens when it doesn't? When helping me costs him something he's not willing to lose? Cross that bridge when you get there. They drove to a hotel downtown, checked in using Lena's credit card, and collapsed in their respective beds. Ethan's phone, now charging, showed 47 missed calls, hundreds of texts, and social media notifications he didn't have accounts for. One text stood out. Sarah, I saw the news, Emma saw the news. We need to talk. He called her. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Is it true? What those women said about Victor Hale. Every word. And you knew. You knew he was that kind of person, and you still... She stopped. Emma asked me if you're a hero or a criminal. The news says both. What am I supposed to tell her? Tell her I did what I thought was right. That's not an answer, Ethan. She's 7. She needs simple. There is no simple. I saw someone getting hurt and I stopped it. The guy I stopped is powerful and he's punishing me for it. That's the truth. You explain it however you want, but don't lie to her about what happened. Sarah was quiet for a long time. My lawyer says the custody hearing might go differently now. Public sympathy's shifted. You're all over the news as some kind of working-class hero standing up to corruption. A judge might see that as stability instead of chaos. I'm still homeless and facing criminal charges. But you're not the villain anymore. You're complicated. Judges can work with complicated. She paused. I'm not dropping the custody case. Emma still needs stability, but maybe we can work out something that doesn't completely cut you out of her life. I'd like that. Don't screw it up, Ethan. Don't let this attention go to your head and forget what actually matters. After she hung up, Ethan lay in the dark hotel room listening to Lena's breathing from the other bed.
Outside, the city hummed with its usual noise, traffic and sirens, and life continuing regardless of what happened to any individual person. His phone buzzed one more time, text from an unknown number. You think you've won. You haven't. This is far from over. Victor Hale promises the fight wasn't finished, but for the first time since that night in the diner, Ethan felt like maybe, just maybe, he had a chance at winning. The backlash came fast and vicious.
Saturday morning, Victor's legal team filed a massive lawsuit against all 5 women for breach of contract, demanding the return of settlement money plus penalties. The combined total was over $3 million. They also filed defamation suits against Ethan, Lena, and Beth, seeking $20 million in damages. The message was clear: talk, and we'll bury you in legal fees until you break. But something had shifted. The story wasn't dying the way Victor expected. By Sunday, 6 more women had come forward with similar accounts. None of them bound by NDAs because they'd never reported what happened. They just stayed silent out of fear. Now they were speaking to reporters, adding their voices to a chorus that was getting harder to ignore. Monday morning, Ethan woke to a call from Beth. The DA dropped the criminal charges. All of them. They issued a statement saying new evidence doesn't support prosecution and they're declining to move forward. Ethan sat up in the hotel bed, trying to process that. Just like that? Not just like that. Public pressure matters. When 50,000 people sign a petition calling the charges political retaliation, prosecutors pay attention. Plus, Richard Vaughn made some calls. I don't know what he said or who he said it to, but the DA's office got the message. So I'm not going to prison? Not for this. Though Victor's civil suits are still active and those could bankrupt you if we lose. But you're not facing jail time. That's something. After she hung up, Ethan sat looking out the window at the city waking up. No criminal record. No threat of 5 years behind bars. Just the regular kind of disaster instead of the catastrophic kind. Lena was already awake, scrolling through her phone with a coffee from the lobby. She looked up when he moved. Did you see the news? Victor's company lost 2 major investors. Both pulled out citing ethical concerns. His stock dropped 11%. He's hemorrhaging money and credibility. Good. My father called. Wants to meet with both of us. Says he has a proposal. They met Richard Vaughn at his office, a sleek tower with views of the river and furniture that probably cost more than most people made in a year. He greeted them warmly, playing the gracious host, but Ethan could see the calculation behind his eyes. I wanted to discuss next steps, Vaughn said once they were seated. Victor's fighting back hard, but he's losing ground. The court of public opinion has turned against him. 3 more women came forward yesterday, and a former employee leaked internal emails showing Victor's team discussed paying people to recant their stories. It's getting ugly for him. Why are we here? Lena asked. Her tone was careful, not quite hostile, but nowhere near trusting. Because I want to help. Victor's civil suits will cost millions to defend, even if you win. His legal team will drag this out for years, bleeding you dry through discovery and depositions and endless motions. You need resources to fight that kind of war. And you're offering those resources? Ethan asked. I'm offering a partnership. My legal team defends you in the civil cases, all of you, including the 5 women facing NDA penalties. In exchange, you work with me on something bigger. Here it comes, Lena said quietly. Vaughn smiled. I'm not the villain you think I am, Lena. Yes, I want something in return. I'm a businessman. But what I'm proposing benefits everyone. Victor Hale isn't unique. There are dozens of men like him, powerful, connected, using wealth to avoid consequences. What if we built something that helps people fight back? A legal fund, an advocacy organization, something that gives ordinary people the resources to stand up to rich predators without getting crushed. Using my story as the face of it, Ethan said. Using all your stories. The 5 women, Lena, you're proof that the system can be challenged. People will donate to that cause. They'll support legislation to limit NDAs in assault cases. They'll pressure politicians and corporations to take harassment seriously. You turn this personal fight into a movement. Lena looked at her father with something close to pity. You can't help yourself, can you? Everything has to be an angle, a strategy. You can't just help because it's right. There has to be a return on investment. The return on investment is a better world for my daughter to live in. If that's selfish, fine. I'm selfish. But the outcome is still good. What do you get out of it? Ethan asked. Vaughn didn't hesitate. Reputation. I'm known for making money, not for doing anything meaningful with it. This changes that. I become the guy who took down predators and protected victims. That's worth more than money to someone my age. It's legacy. The honesty was almost refreshing. At least Vaughn didn't pretend his motivations were pure. And if we say no, Lena asked, then you fight Victor on your own and probably lose. His lawyers will outspend you, outlast you, and grind you down until you settle for pennies or give up entirely. The women will lose their settlements and go bankrupt. You'll spend years in court and come out with nothing but legal debt. Is that what you want? They left without giving him an answer, but Ethan knew Vaughn was right. Fighting Victor alone meant losing slowly instead of quickly. With Vaughn's resources, they had a chance. I hate that he's right, Lena said as they walked back to the hotel. I hate that we need him. But we do. Your call. He's your father. That's exactly why it's complicated. If I take his help, I'm back in his orbit. Back to being Richard Vaughn's daughter instead of my own person. But if I don't, I watch Victor destroy everyone who stood up with me. She kicked a loose piece of sidewalk. There's no clean choice here. Tuesday brought more developments. A video surfaced online, security footage from the diner the night everything started. Someone had leaked it, probably the cook, or maybe Mel himself. The footage was grainy but clear enough to show exactly what happened. Victor grabbing Lena's arm, her pulling away. Victor tightening his grip, Ethan intervening. Victor's face contorted with rage when Ethan made him let go. The footage went viral within hours. News outlets played it on loop. The contrast between what the video showed and what Victor had claimed was damning. Here was proof, undeniable and recorded, that Victor had lied about everything. By Wednesday, 2 board members at Victor's company resigned. 3 corporate partnerships dissolved. His lawyers issued a statement saying the footage was taken out of context, that it didn't show the full picture, but nobody was buying it anymore. Thursday morning, Beth called with bigger news. The judge in the civil case wants a settlement conference. She's seen the publicity, reviewed the evidence, and thinks this should be resolved without trial. Both sides are being ordered to mediation next week. What does that mean? It means the judge thinks Victor's case is weak and doesn't want to waste court time on it. She's pushing both sides to settle. This is good for us. It means she sees holes in Victor's claims. What kind of settlement are we talking about? Hard to say. Victor will want you to sign something saying you lied, admit fault, agree never to speak about him again. We'll counter that he dismisses all claims with prejudice and pays your legal fees. Where we land depends on how desperate he is to make this go away. The mediation happened the following Tuesday in a conference room at the courthouse. Victor's side took one end of a long table, flanked by 4 lawyers who looked like they billed $1,000 an hour. Ethan's side had Beth, Richard Vaughn's lead counsel, a sharp woman named Maria Santos, and Ethan himself. Lena sat in as a witness, along with Patricia and Denise representing the other women. The mediator was a retired judge named Howard Pierce, a grandfatherly type who'd spent 40 years watching people fight over everything imaginable. He started with the standard speech about good faith negotiation and the benefits of settling versus the uncertainty of trial. Then Robert Marsh took over. Let's be clear about where we are. My client has been subjected to a coordinated smear campaign designed to extort money and destroy his reputation. The so-called victims violated legally binding ND, as to tell fabricated stories for financial gain. Mr. Cole assaulted my client and then recruited Mr. Vaughn's daughter to lie on his behalf. This entire spectacle is actionable on multiple grounds. Maria Santos didn't blink. Your client grabbed a woman against her will, then used his wealth to silence witnesses and fabricate evidence of stalking. We have security footage proving he lied about the initial incident. We have 11 women with consistent stories of assault and coercion. We have documentation of your client using illegal tactics to destroy Mr. Cole's livelihood. The only question is whether we expose all of this in open court or whether your client slinks away quietly. We're prepared to go to trial, Marsh said. Are you? Because I'm prepared to depose every business partner, every politician, every person your client has ever had leverage over. I'm prepared to turn this trial into a referendum on wealth and corruption. And I'm prepared to win, Because the evidence is overwhelming, and the jury will be ordinary people who are tired of watching rich men get away with whatever they want. Judge Pierce held up his hands. Let's dial back the rhetoric and focus on resolution. Mr. Marsh, what is your client willing to offer? Marsh conferred with his team. Then, Mr. Hale will dismiss his claims against Mr. Cole and the 5 original women, provided they sign agreements never to discuss him publicly and issue statements retracting their allegations. He'll pay Mr. Cole's legal fees up to $50,000. In exchange, all parties sign mutual non-disparagement agreements, and the matter is sealed from public record. Absolutely not, Maria said immediately. Your client wants to buy silence again. That's not happening. Then we have no deal. Fine. We'll see you in court. I look forward to putting your client on the stand and asking him about every settlement he's ever paid, every NDA he's ever enforced, every woman he's ever hurt. It'll make excellent television. Victor's team huddled again, voices tense. Finally, Marsh said, "What do you want?" Maria laid out terms. Mr. Hale dismisses all claims against all parties with prejudice, meaning he can never refile. He pays $200,000 in legal fees and costs. He issues a public statement acknowledging that Mr. Cole acted appropriately in defending someone from assault. He agrees not to retaliate against any witnesses or parties involved, and the NDAs with the 5 women are declared void and unenforceable. That's insane. You're asking him to admit guilt. I'm asking him to tell the truth. If that feels like admitting guilt, perhaps you should examine your client's actions. The mediation went on for 6 hours. Back and forth, offers and counteroffers, breaks where each side retreated to separate rooms. Victor himself never appeared, staying in a different building while his lawyers negotiated. Ethan wondered if that was strategy or cowardice. By 4 p.m., they'd hammered out a compromise. Victor would dismiss all claims, pay $150,000 in fees, and issue a statement saying, "The parties have resolved their differences and agree the matter was a misunderstanding." Not an admission of guilt, but not an accusation of wrongdoing either. Carefully worded neutrality. The NDAs would remain technically valid, but Victor agreed not to enforce them. The women couldn't be sued for what they'd already said, but future statements could theoretically trigger penalties. It was a half measure, but it was something. "We should push for more," Maria said during a break. "He's desperate. We can get full NDA invalidation." "We could," Beth agreed. "But that means trial, and trial means months of discovery, depositions, media circus. These women have been through enough. If they want to take this deal and move on, that's their choice." They voted. Patricia, Denise, and the others all chose to settle. They were tired of fighting, tired of having their lives dissected, tired of being defined by what Victor had done to them. The settlement meant closure, even if it wasn't perfect. Ethan signed last, his hand steady on the paper. Just like that, it was over. The civil cases dismissed, the legal threats neutralized, the war ending not with a bang, but with signatures and carefully worded statements. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and questions. Maria handled it, reading a brief statement about resolution and mutual understanding. She didn't take questions. Victor's team did the same from a different entrance, spinning the settlement as vindication while carefully avoiding any admission of wrongdoing. The media reported it as a draw. Both sides claimed victory. The truth, as always, was more complicated. That night, Ethan met Lena at a bar near the hotel. She was nursing a whiskey and looking at her phone with an expression somewhere between relief and exhaustion. 6 more women reached out today. Women who worked for Victor or around him, who never said anything because they thought nobody would believe them. They saw the press conference and the settlement, and they want to tell their stories too. Will they? Some will, some won't, but at least now they know they're not alone. That's something. She put her phone down. My father wants me to run the advocacy thing. The fund for victims fighting back against powerful people. He's putting up $10 million to start, says he'll match donations dollar for dollar. What'd you say? I said I'd think about it, which is more than I would have said a month ago. She laughed without much humor. Turns out running away doesn't solve anything. You just end up somewhere else with the same problems. Might as well face them where I can actually make a difference. You don't have to work with him. Yeah, I do. Because he's right. This could help people. And if I let my issues with my father stop that, I'm just being selfish. Sometimes you swallow your pride and do the thing that needs doing,
even if it costs you something. She looked at Ethan. What about you? What's next? He'd been thinking about that. The settlement money would cover his debts and buy some breathing room. Sarah was willing to negotiate on custody now that the criminal charges were dropped. He could rebuild if he wanted to, get a new apartment, find work, put his life back together. But something had shifted. He'd spent 2 weeks as the face of standing up to power, and people had responded. His email was full of messages from other people trapped by bad bosses, abusive partners, systems designed to protect the powerful. They wanted advice, support, someone who understood what it meant to fight back and lose everything. Beth mentioned something about working together, using my story to help other people in similar situations. Legal advocacy, maybe some public speaking about workers' rights and standing up to retaliation. Sounds like you'd be good at that. Sounds like I'd be terrible at it. I'm not a speaker or an advocate. I'm just a guy who didn't walk away when maybe I should have. That's exactly why you'd be good at it. You're not polished or political. You're real. People trust that. Ethan thought about Emma, about what he wanted her to see when she looked at him. Not perfection. That was impossible. But maybe someone who tried. Someone who stood up when it mattered, even when it cost him. Yeah, he said finally. Maybe I'll try. The custody hearing happened 3 weeks later. Sarah's lawyer still argued for restricted visitation, but the tone had changed. The judge, a woman in her 50s who looked tired of hearing parents fight, listened to both sides and cut through the legal posturing. Mr. Cole, I've reviewed your case. You intervened in an assault, faced retaliation, and ultimately were vindicated. That shows judgment and courage. However, you also lost your housing, your income, and put yourself in a position where you couldn't provide stable support for your daughter. That shows poor planning. She looked at Sarah. Miss Cole, I understand your concerns about stability, but Mr. Cole's recent difficulties were the result of standing up to corruption, not personal failings. Punishing him for that sends the wrong message to your daughter about what matters in life. Her ruling split the difference. Joint custody with Emma living primarily with Sarah, but Ethan getting her every other weekend plus 1 evening per week. Not perfect, but better than supervised visitation or nothing at all. After the hearing, Sarah caught him in the hallway. Don't make me regret this. She needs you to actually show up, not just when it's convenient. I will. And Ethan, what you did standing up to Victor, I'm not saying it was smart, but it was brave. Emma saw that. She's been asking questions about doing the right thing even when it's hard, so don't mess this up by disappearing again. That Saturday, Ethan picked Emma up for their first official visit. She ran to his truck chattering about school and soccer, and a boy who'd tried to kiss her friend and gotten sent to the principal's office. Normal kid stuff, beautiful in its mundane normalness. They went to the zoo. Emma wanted to see the polar bears and the monkeys and the reptile house that creeped her out, but she insisted on visiting anyway. They ate overpriced hot dogs and drank lemonade, and Ethan listened to his daughter talk about everything and nothing, just grateful to be there. On the way home, Emma got quiet. Then, Daddy, are you a hero? Ethan thought about how to answer that. I don't think so. I just did what felt right. But you helped those women, and you stood up to the bad man even though he tried to hurt you. Yeah, but heroes are people who save everyone. I didn't save anyone, I just refused to look away. Emma processed that. Mom says looking away is how bad things keep happening. She says if more people didn't look away, there'd be less bad things. Your mom's pretty smart. Are you going to keep not looking away? Yeah, baby, I am. She seemed satisfied with that and went back to talking about her friend's upcoming birthday party. But Ethan felt the weight of that promise. Not looking away meant staying engaged, staying present, being someone his daughter could count on. That was harder than any fight with Victor Hale. 3 months later, the Advocacy Fund officially launched. Richard Vaughn held a press conference announcing the Vaughn Cole Foundation for Workplace Justice, with Lena as executive director and Ethan as public face. The name had been Vaughn's idea, attaching his name for credibility and Ethan's for authenticity. The foundation offered legal support to people fighting workplace harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. They'd already taken on 6 cases, including a warehouse worker fired for reporting unsafe conditions and a teacher who'd exposed financial fraud in her district. Ethan did speaking engagements now,
traveling to colleges and community centers to talk about standing up to power. He was terrible at it initially, wooden, uncomfortable, reading from notes. But he got better. Learned to just tell the story honestly, without trying to sound inspiring or important. People responded to that. The 5 women moved on with their lives. Patricia went back to catering, but on her own terms now, running a small business. Denise used her settlement money to go back to school. Rachel moved to another state for a fresh start. They stayed in touch through a group chat, supporting each other through the aftermath. Victor Hale resigned from his company's board 6 months after the settlement. He sold most of his properties and moved to Florida, where he kept a low profile and avoided public appearances. His fall wasn't dramatic. No arrest, no trial, no perp walk. Just a slow fade into irrelevance as sponsors dropped him and former allies found reasons to be busy. Some people said he'd gotten away with it, that wealth and connections had shielded him from real consequences. They weren't entirely wrong, but his empire was diminished, his reputation destroyed, and his name synonymous with abuse and corruption. That was something. A year after that night in the diner, Ethan sat in his new apartment, small but clean, in a building where Emma had her own room decorated with posters she'd picked out. She was spending the weekend sprawled on the couch watching a movie while Ethan answered emails from people asking the foundation for help. His phone rang. Lena. You see the news? Victor's Florida neighbors filed a complaint. Apparently he's been harassing a woman who works at his gym. Same pattern. Inappropriate touching, threats when she complained. Except this time she went straight to the police and the media. His past is catching up. Good. Yeah, I almost feel bad for him. Almost. She paused. The foundation got another 50 applications this week. We can't take them all, but we're helping where we can. This thing you started, it's bigger than just you now. I didn't start anything. I just didn't walk away. Same thing sometimes. She laughed. My father wants to have dinner. Says he's proud of what we've built. Can you believe that? Richard Vaughn admitting his daughter did something worthwhile. You going? Yeah. Turns out I can work with him without being controlled by him. Who knew? Her voice softened. Thanks, Ethan, for standing up that night, for showing me it was possible. I needed that. After she hung up, Ethan looked at Emma sleeping on the couch, her face peaceful in the TV's glow. He thought about all the ways his life had broken and reformed, about what he'd lost and what he'd found. Sarah had been right. He'd chosen to fight instead of choosing his family. But maybe both things could be true. Maybe you could fight for something bigger than yourself and still be a good father. Maybe standing up didn't mean abandoning the people you loved. Maybe it meant showing them what mattered. His phone buzzed. Message from Beth. New case just came in. Factory worker in Tennessee fired for reporting sexual harassment. Media's interested. Think we should take it? Ethan typed back. Yeah, let's take it. He went to the couch and gently woke Emma, carrying her to bed when she was too sleepy to walk. She mumbled something about polar bears and her friend's birthday and drifted back to sleep before he could answer. Standing in her doorway, watching his daughter breathe, Ethan understood something he hadn't before. The fight with Victor hadn't been about winning or losing. It had been about refusing to accept that power meant immunity, that money erased consequences, that ordinary people had to stay quiet to survive. He'd paid for that refusal with his job, his home, his stability. But he'd gained something too, proof that standing up was possible, that you could face down wealth and influence and intimidation and come out the other side alive. Damaged maybe, changed definitely, but alive and still fighting. That was enough. Not perfect, not heroic, just enough. He left Emma's door cracked and went back to his laptop, reading through the Tennessee factory workers' case. The details were depressingly familiar. Harassment, retaliation, a system designed to protect the powerful instead of the vulnerable. But now there was an alternative. Now there was help. Outside his window, the city lights spread across the darkness like stars that had fallen to earth. Somewhere in that sprawl, other people were fighting their own battles against bosses and landlords and systems that crushed anyone who pushed back. Most of them would lose, some would give up, but a few would stand up and refuse to look away, and maybe that would be enough to shift the balance one fight at a time. Ethan pulled up a blank document and started drafting a response to the Tennessee worker. The words came easier now, less like legal language and more like a conversation between people who understood what it meant to fight when losing was almost guaranteed. His phone buzzed again. Sarah. Emma keeps talking about you, says her daddy helps people who can't help themselves. Don't let her down. He wouldn't, or he'd try not to. That was all anyone could promise. To try, to show up, to keep standing even when everything said you should sit down and be quiet. Ethan typed until midnight, answering emails and reviewing cases and planning strategy with Beth and the Foundation's growing team. When he finally closed the laptop, he felt that familiar exhaustion that came from doing work that mattered. Emma's drawing was taped to his fridge now, the stick figure family holding hands under the triangle house and circle sun. She'd updated it recently, adding more figures around the edges. Other families, other people, all connected by lines she'd drawn between them. What are those? He'd asked when she showed him. Everyone you're helping, they're part of our family too now. 7-year-old logic, simple and profound. Everyone fighting the same fight was connected, was family in the ways that mattered. Ethan turned off the lights and checked on Emma one more time before heading to his own room. She was still asleep, peaceful and safe and loved. Whatever else he'd lost or found or broken along the way, he'd given her this. A father who stood up when it mattered, who didn't look away. That was worth everything it had cost. That was enough.